Start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so tonight we have two public hearings. One is already open, so it's kind of being continued, and the other one is one that we haven't had. So we're gonna start with the Simsbury Soccer Club to continue that one. This will be the third night that we've had the public hearing open. And I have the first person on the list is Tom Hayden. We have 3 minutes per okay.
Hopefully be less than that.
Okay, good, thanks.
Tom Hayden, 134 Sawyer's Pass. Past president of Simsbury Soccer Club and current treasurer of Connecticut Junior Soccer Association. And last month kind of talked a little bit about the club itself, and I want to talk a little bit this month about how the club is respected throughout the state. There's 163 soccer clubs throughout the state. We have a little over 71,000 people in it. And Simsbury is extremely well respected. It's known for its sportsmanship. As a matter of fact, a couple years ago, a team was going up to New Hampshire, and the director of coaching up there, commented about how good these Simsbury players are in regards to sportsmanship. Also wanted to say in the bylaws of the club, there's kind of a number of paragraphs that talk about the philosophy, and the philosophy is built around sportsmanship, having fun, making great friendships, and it's not until the third paragraph that you actually get to, winning and the importance of winning. So, one of the things that we're trying to do, I think with the capital campaign, is enhance Curtis Park and make sure that, the youth, have an opportunity to learn soccer, grow sports, develop their sportsmanship, make lasting friendships, and whatnot. And with that, that's one of the reasons I'm supporting the MOU. So keep it short and simple. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Berger?
Ben Berger, 18 Joshua Drive. You guys have heard from me enough. I'm not gonna say everything again. I'm not gonna relitigate all those points. I just wanna make sure that we're clear why we're here, where it's a memorandum of understanding for a license agreement, so that a bunch of Simsbury residents and Simsbury citizens can then do their best to improve a Simsbury asset, an asset that's deteriorated over decades. And now we have an opportunity to try to improve it, but this is what we need in order to do that. And I don't know who came on Saturday, but Saturday was our 50th anniversary celebration. We had thousands of people ultimately, I think, make their way through, a few hundred at a time. We had bouncy houses, we had DJs, we had music, we had photo booths, and we had a lot of soccer and a lot of food trucks and an awful lot of fun. And I want you guys to know that your community was a huge part of it. We're running a silent auction off of that, and there are some just unbelievably great items that community members, businesses, because the truth is, not only are we good residents, but we are also great community members, and every weekend, hundreds and hundreds of families from out of state come in and use Curtis and then use the businesses in town. And all those folks from all these communities came in on Saturday. It wasn't just Simsbury people, it was others, and then took advantage of all the shops and the businesses that we have. I won't be 3 minutes, don't worry about it.
That's something else, that's a different one, sorry.
You guys have heard from me way too much over the last few months, so I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. There's a lot of things that folks will say about why it's not a great idea, but it is a really good idea to let a bunch of Simsbury residents who want nothing more than to better an asset in the community take a shot at it this way. And as we've said many times, all we're trying to do is codify what is reality already, what is de facto what we have, but that enables us to try to take the next steps to make it better for the community. And that's all we really want to do. We have an opportunity to just take this to the next level and take something that, as I've said many times, 1,000 students, approximately 1/3 of our K-8 population is a part of. And we take kids of all abilities, we take kids with disabilities, we take kids at the highest levels and the lowest levels of soccer, all so they have a great community experience. I will take the hint twice. I'm just saying, I wanna thank everybody for the time, we've had it the last couple months and I hope we can bring this home today. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the ring doorbell.
Oh, goody. Well, I thought so. And Susan Messino, I have her. I got her from here.
Hi, good evening. I spoke up about this when I first heard about it in January, specifically about the turf and the lights. And I've spoken of a couple of other things since then. And I wanna say my heart is just beating like a hummingbird right now. For me, this isn't about soccer. It's about public land that's next to a wild and scenic river, that's a floodplain and some of the best farmland in the entire world. And by paving it and by digging up that dirt, and I don't know what's gonna happen, can Simsbury Soccer sell it? They could probably pay for more than they're gonna pay for the leases by selling that soil right out from under our feet. So this is not improving that land. It's destroying something that's really important that's there now. And that is the problem. Our rules don't protect the most priceless things that we have. And I keep on trying to explain that, and I'm not sure if I'm not clear or if you don't understand what I'm saying or if you wanna pretend that you don't understand what I'm saying. Connecticut has been a leader in talking about turf fields, for example. And science takes a long time, and the burden of proof is upside down actually. That you need to somehow prove that turf fields don't cause a problem, and in the meantime we'll assume that they don't cause a problem. We have been a leader on environmental, and I have nothing against soccer. I mean, if the soccer club is so successful, I would fully support them finding their own place to buy and play soccer on. I don't understand why we would give them our public land and let them develop on a floodplain next to a wild and scenic river. I sent a note to all of you explaining to you, I thought, how important this was and how our other boards don't have any regulations to stop this. If you vote for this tonight and leave the possibility of turf and all that paving in there, that is what will happen. Don't pretend that it's someone else's responsibility, it's yours.
Thank you. Okay, with that, is there anyone else here for the public hearing for the soccer fields? Lori and then Dave.
I wasn't actually gonna come tonight, I had some other things to do. On July 15th, I had requested the internal communication with staff and elected officials with Simsbury Soccer. And this is what I got an hour and 20 minutes ago of all the communications that the public is not aware of. Because these are internal emails or emails between Simsbury and Simsbury Soccer. So I don't know what's in here, I just got it. But that's an awful lot of communication that the public doesn't even know about. And I can speak to what Susan's concerns are. I know why this is being done, and I know that it's gonna be approved tonight. And the reason is because we're selling our soul and our soil for improvements. First of all, improvements are questionable. They're subjective. Whose improvements? Who wants the improvements? I don't actually think paved parking lots over there are an improvement. I don't think we should have a snack shack over there. Everybody that supports town businesses, convenience stores and takeout restaurants and sit-down restaurants after games and tournaments, that half of that business is gonna shift to the snack shack. You're taking business away from town entities while we're running an economic development commission trying to figure out how to bolster the town businesses. Also, they're talking about lights until 10 o'clock at night is in this agreement. So that's just crazy to me to be running lights over there till 10 o'clock. And the last thing I wanna say about this agreement, which is I'm sure a foregone conclusion, is that I don't think they should have a blanket event permit that they just have for the season. That includes tournaments. you're talking about the traffic through Terriffill, and you could have a tournament over there every single weekend. Okay, maybe not every single weekend, but every other weekend, adding to our traffic on Route 10, adding to the traffic through Terriffill. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave.
Good evening, David Bush, 4 Catherine Lane, also Chairman of the Park and Rec Commission. No surprise, I'm here in support of what they're asking for, but I want to reflect on that a little bit. We just celebrated the fact that we have Simsbury Farms, wonderful complex, used by not only residents but other community members from other towns. That was all town money. That was all money that taxpayers bore. Here we have a proposal from a group that is so dedicated, who have been in partnership with the town for years and years. And they're saying, let us spend our money to improve our facility. It is a partnership. And when we think of partnership, we don't think of all the negatives. Oh, gee, we might have a problem with some soil or what have you. We look beyond that. I just, understand that I got an email recently that they want me to come to the Economic Development Commission meeting and talk about how do we promote development in the town. This is it. This is a private-public partnership that makes so much sense that it's almost surprising to me that it has the kind of analysis and putback and setbacks and obstacles put in front of it. You have a rare opportunity to let a public and private partnership flourish in this town on land that has been used for soccer for a long time. It isn't like we're taking other land that has been farmed and saying you can no longer farm that land. This is land that has been dedicated with, of course, the fact that we asked for this new memorandum of understanding, or they did. But this land has been used in really an exclusive purpose for years and years and years. Let's let them enhance it, because not only is that good for the community, it's also good for your economic development ideas, which this town is really looking to promote so that we can better our town, better our tax base. No surprise, Park and Rec unanimously approved this. Just wanted to remind you of that. That we are fully supportive of this group and their proposal. And I think if you just looked around, it's extraordinary that you have a group like this that is trying to raise the kind of money they are and not asking the town for that kind of financial support that almost any other redevelopment of recreation in the town would require and eventually require from the taxpayers. I thank you very much. Thank you for the consideration. Good to see all of you again.
Hey, is there anyone else here for the soccer club public hearing? Supposed to ask 3 times, so I'm gonna ask, anybody here for the public hearing? Anybody here for the public hearing? Okay, with that, I'm gonna ask for a motion to close this public hearing on the Simsbury Soccer Club.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that public hearing is now closed. Okay, now we have a public hearing on the proposed withholding building permits on tax delinquent properties ordinance. And I'd like to ask for a motion to open the public hearing on that.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that public hearing is now open. I have Joan Coe here to speak as the part of the public hearing. Joan? 3 minutes.
Joan Coe, 26 Wickham Drive. June 16, 2025. My comments to the Board of Selectmen, I quote, "Real Estate Holdings LLC, 140 Nod Road in Klamath Earth Farm Products have not paid taxes to the town. Real Estate Holdings LLC has an application before the zoning commission for a zone change, application ZC number 25-07 of Simsbury Real Estate Holdings LLC applicant for text amendment to the Simsbury zoning regulations, sections 2-3 residential districts and section 17 definitions to allow an additional use special recreation area in the R40, R80, and R160 zones. Flamic Farm Products has a lawsuit against the town on a tax appeal. Both these businesses and others are in arrears in their taxes, are allowed to ask for special exceptions or expansions. A person cannot register their motor vehicles if they have not paid their taxes. The town should follow the DMV and develop a policy restricting anyone from applying to the town for approval of applications or other related activities until they comply with the town regulations. I assume my comments triggered the document the Board of Selectmen and town staff provided for comment on receiving permits, public hearing notice, withholding public permits on delinquent tax property. The document provides an escape clause for delinquencies on a case-by-case provision. This should be eliminated. The Board of Selectmen passed an ordinance forcing people to take personal responsibility for their dog's poop without an escalation clause. People should take personal responsibility for their finances and pay taxes when due before adding additional projects. Otherwise, you are condoning Ponzi schemes that can lead to more defaults. The town staff should not be placed in a precarious situation of interpretation of the escape clause. This could lead to lawsuits on interpretation of the document at great cost to the town for being arbitrary and capricious. The document should state simply that delinquent taxes and other land use violations are cause for rejecting additional permits. Delinquent taxes from the tax department list should be forwarded to the building department. All applicants applying for permits must show that they have no tax delinquencies to staff. This proposal should be withdrawn until a proposal is written with a clear and concise document. All of my comments will be posted on Simsbury Pat and Twitter at Joan Co. And I did it in 3 minutes.
Thank you, with 12 seconds to spare. Okay, is there anyone else here for the building permit open public hearing? Going once, going twice. Okay, can I ask for a motion to close the building permit public hearing?
Close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was a tongue twister, kind of. Okay, I'd like to in consideration of our guests here tonight, would somebody like to make a motion to move the presentation up before public audience so we can let our
I move that we have the presentation before a public audience in consideration for Ethel Walker.
Is there a second?
Second.
And all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, so public audience people, you'll have to wait, but it'll be an interesting presentation. Tonight,
An extra minute for that?
so tonight
10 seconds, Joe.
Tonight we have the head of school at Ethel Walker, Dr. Mira Viswanathan, and Clarissa Bach. I don't know if Clarissa's speaking. I had the pleasure of. Oh, hi.
I know I was coming.
Okay,
Greetings
so
all.
I had the pleasure of meeting with Mira about a month ago. I was invited over to Ethel Walker. They've invited us to some of the openings of the new dorms to try to get us more involved and have Ethel Walker more involved in the community. They've been pretty involved as far as the Performing Arts Center. They're one of the big sponsors there. They recently helped and supported the end of the summer bash and also other goings on at the farms programs. So with that, I'd like to invite you guys up and hopefully get 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for this wonderful honor of speaking to the Board of Selectmen and to interested parties. This is my 10th year at the Ethel Walker School, and I want to begin with a moment of gratitude. How fortunate we feel, especially given the goings-on around the country and in the world, to be here in Connecticut, in Simsbury. And just the meeting so far reminds me what this country's all about. It's about democracy, it's about divergent opinions, it's about people having voices. And so, thank you for being that kind of town that I feel proud to lead a school in. So, I wanted to talk today a little bit about our connections to the town. Let's see if I can do this right. There we go. What I want to say is, even though it may look as though we are this school tucked up on a hillside far away from the town, in fact, we see ourselves in and of Simsbury. And just to look, for example, at our adult population, almost half of our faculty, administrators, and staff are Simsbury residents, and proudly so. And 29 of our students are from the immediate sort of Simsbury, West Simsbury, Weetag. And the reason I mention this is because we don't see a division. And we recognize, again, the benefits of living in a town that values not only the values I mentioned earlier, but also education. And we see this in private education, independent, parochial, we have wonderful schools, partners, and public education. And rather than think in terms of resources, we often think in zero-sum terms, the pie, who gets a bigger. One of the things that I think is wonderful is to think about the fish and loaves, the way in which education is generative, and the way in which we can partner to share resources and for mutual benefit. And I think that's what's been happening. And one of the things I'm going to ask at the end of my remarks are ideas about ways in which we can partner further. So Wendy very kindly mentioned a number of partnerships that we've already had. I just want to mention that community partnership at our school, and Clarissa Bash, who's our Director of College Counseling and co-directs community partnerships, this is a wonderful part of our school in which students don't see it as bean counting. Oh my goodness, I have to put in 10 more hours before I can graduate. That many of our students do double, triple, quadruple the amount of community partnership because they believe in it as part of those values that we were talking about earlier. And so our students, we're a school of 225 students, and they spend almost 5,000 hours annually on those partnerships. And that the volunteer spots you can see are 245 and more. And again, I'm proud of that because it's about this idea of connection. And I think that is what the future is about. One of them is Thrive Farm. And our students love Thrive Farm. Frankly, one of my fantasies at the school, Susan, you'll appreciate this, is to have an organic farm at the school because I think our students should experience getting their hands dirty. I think they should learn where food comes from, how hard it is to produce, and how it requires careful nurturing. And Thrive Farm allows our students that experience right now and also makes them realize where that produce goes. Just a picture of their enjoyment. We also are partnered with the town in terms of two other community partnerships, Unified Art and Special Olympics. And here we have not only the clients, the participants, but also caregivers welcome. And they do a variety of activities, whether it's making art in our beautiful art studio or using our great basketball facility. And I visited on Sundays when they do the Unified. Clarissa is very much involved in that. And what I love again is to see the joy, not only for the participants, but for our students, that it is mutual benefit. They get a thrill out of recognizing that they are learners and teachers at the same time. And here's a picture of the art studio that is gathered. We have an Annuan Robin Batchelder Award for one of the extraordinary individuals who's really pioneered this at our school. And it's one of the great honors of community partnerships to win it. Basketball. So what I want to stress are permeable boundaries. Of course, we're a school, and the safety and security of our students, particularly in an all-girls school, comes first and foremost. But those aren't sort of iron gates, and we don't have them anyway. But more metaphorically, we have permeable boundaries. And so part of the joy is inviting members of the community when we have, for example, visiting writers. And we have legendary writers, the US Poet Laureate, winners of the Lanham Prize, MacArthur Fellowships, who come, Pulitzer Prize, who come twice a year and spend a week at the school each time. And we make sure that there's always a public lecture opportunity for members of the town to be able to come and join us. I've been invited recently to do some lectures at the public library in Simsbury, which I'm thrilled about because at heart I'm a teacher and I used to teach comparative literature and Japanese. And so I'm gonna be talking about Japanese poetry and gardens, which frankly I would pay people to let me do. So I'm so grateful to have that chance. We also have our neighborhood community gardens. And again, the chance for people who might not have the acreage to be able to enjoy growing fruits and flowers and to have their plot. And for us, it gives us great pleasure to partner with the town on this. The Granby Simsbury Chamber of Commerce members are going to be joining us shortly for an sort of evening sort of reception, again, to meet members of the school, to talk about concerns. And I'm very grateful to the Chamber of Commerce because last year they worked with one of our students who was working on student internships and how we can partner with the town that way. And our students were thrilled to meet members of the Chamber of Commerce and actually some internships got started. The other thing, of course, is that we have spaces on campus that again, we're delighted when members of the town can use it. We share it with the Cobb School. We've shared it with other institutions when, of course, our beautiful Congregational Church had its terrible fire. Their Christmas Eve service was held in our chapel and it was glorious. And so it's that kind of opportunity. I wanna say also that Ferguson Theatre, which we've enjoyed sharing, is about to undergo, we just received a major gift for renovation. And so in the next 18 months, it's going to have not only a facelift, but it's also going to acquire, yay, air conditioning. And I think that will make it much more enjoyable, yes, you know that, as a space for all of us. But again, one of the things I emphasize on campus is even though people may live in particular houses, I live in Debbie's house, the head's house, it's not my house. It's still a schoolhouse and everybody has access. And so that's the way I'd like to think about all of our time here, is that we're stewards of spaces. And the question is, how do we use it best for optimizing well-being? Okay. And so again, we have the Sustainability Committee. Mark was there when we had the committee visit. We had a great tour. We had to do it during a time where obviously girls weren't living in the dorm. But we were thrilled, and from that actually came a relationship with the town committee on sustainability, which I was thrilled about. And may I say that I appreciate the forward-looking nature of this town. And so that when we wanted to build this new net zero dorm, which is all electric, which we have rain chains and irrigation hogs collecting rainwater so we can use it. We don't use potable water to water the grounds. The materials used are sustainable materials that again induce a sense of well-being. I was thrilled to have the town say, of course, go ahead and put those solar panels on. Yes, do the green roof. And so it was that kind of encouragement that really helped us and helps us if we think about what we can do to retrofit the campus to make it a more sustainable place. I also want to say it is a partnership because we learned from the town sustainability committee. And so, for example, our composting is as a result, we're going to work with Blue Earth and begin our composting process, which I think will be terrific. We have faculty and staff who are very involved, and probably some of you know Carol Clark Flanagan, who of course worked very closely on the DEI committee. And Carol sadly retired last year after a legendary decades at the school. But she was a very fervent sort of believer in the town and also the school's relationship too. And you know, we've done periodic breakfasts on campus for police and fire security members. I think again, if we can think of other opportunities, and what I want to mention now is some of the things we're doing at the school that are a little different, that I think might give us some food for thought. One is that we have some new courses on campus. I'm going to mention one. It's a course on molecular genetics, and we're partnering with Stanford University School of Medicine Diabetes Lab. And our students are raising new strains of fruit flies. And who knew that fruit flies, you know, we all have rotting bananas, but evidently these strains which are very carefully genetically selected, are in desperate sort of use all over the world by scientists. And there's a bank in Indiana that collects all of these fly strains. And so our students are now engaged in helping work in molecular genetics and produce, and in their first year, this last year, they produced 5 new fly strains. And these are going to be used by scientists around the world. And we hope that next year's advanced course in molecular genetics, they're actually going to learn CRISPR techniques. And that at the high school level is a little unusual. Just a handful of schools in the country do that. But what it strikes me is here's an opportunity in which we can partner with the public schools, with other schools to share resources. We don't all have to have a molecular genetics lab. Why can't we find ways to share that? And similarly, in the summertime, when our students aren't there, there's a great opportunity for a summer program to do that. So again, for me, it's how do we get maximal bang for the buck, right? How do we use our resources again in that way? So that's one kind of course. Another kind of venture that we've been involved in has been around financial literacy for girls. And this is part of our larger capabilities approach program. But something we've been doing for the last 10 years, starting in 2017, 9 years, is VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, which is a joint effort by the United Way and the IRS, with the recognition that many lower income individuals and families do not claim their guaranteed income tax credits and refunds for a variety of reasons. And so the IRS developed this certification that if you're 16 years old and you pass the tax exam for that year, you can be certified as a legal tax preparer. And many senior citizens have undertaken that certification, and college students and law school students. But I think we're probably the only school in the country in which every junior at our school now is certified by the IRS. And about 25 of them, we could, if we had more spaces in Hartford, we could do more, but 25 of them work every Sunday between January and April with lower income families working on tax returns. And of course, we couldn't work during COVID, and the program has grown recently, but in the 7 years that we've done the program, 6 years we've done the program, those students have helped bring back over $1 million in federal and state refunds. And so to me, that's real accomplishment, that's real partnership, because for those students, it was also learning of what it means to be in that income bracket. Some of our students come from that income bracket. Almost 40% of our students receive substantial aid. But the beauty part is that they are able to give back to their communities, and they learn what it is to make hard choices about rent and food and insurance and gas. And that's why it's a partnership. So that has been a wonderfully successful program, and we actually, I know, Mark, that you were in Poughkeepsie, we sent our director and 2 students to the City of Poughkeepsie School, which is a school that's facing a lot of challenges. And they were initially, I was told, a little bit standoffish, thinking, what is this fancy girls' school? What do they think they're gonna teach us? And by the end, as our students spoke, they were leaving and saying, we wanna do VITA, we wanna do all of it. The other program we started, and this was really made possible by a grandparent a few years ago, is that I think girls need to learn about investing. And so we give $1,000 to every sophomore and a seminar investment. And they learn to track their stock or fund over 3 years. And every year they've beaten the market, often substantially. And after that first year, we needed more money because we had to support 3 years. Our trustees said you can use the endowment. So we could say that we're the only school in which our students manage a portion, albeit a very tiny portion of our endowment. And the beauty part is they've beaten our professional money managers. And so I'm really proud of that. And again, what we would love to do is share this. The whole point of it, again, this goes back to fish and loaves. It's not about hoarding and saying, aren't we great? It's about saying, what are you doing? Tell me about it so we can do it. And here's what we're doing. So we look forward to the chance to partner in different ways and to learn from different parts of what the town is doing and other schools and hope that we can ride the storm that we're all facing now. because we know there are deep challenges, but I think there are creative solutions as well. And so thank you all so much. I think that's the end. Oh, I was gonna say that we love to support things in town, and may I say that the restaurants, the bars, our faculty depend on you all. We thank you. And we love the events, and I got to go to the end of summer blast, and it was just terrific, those fireworks and the music and all of it. So again, I started with gratitude, I end with gratitude. How lucky we are to be with you in this marvelous place at this time with hope in our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mira. What we'll do is I will take your email address and we can ask anybody on the board who has ideas or ways to get involved to reach out to you.
That would be great.
I shared mine when I was there, but I'd like to have everybody else have a chance in the interest of time. We can't really sit here tonight and go
Of
through it all,
course,
but it was
I know
really
you're busy.
interesting to have you speak here and we hope to see you at Burgers on the Bridge.
Thank you, I'll see you on Wednesday.
Thanks. Okay, now we're gonna zoom back and you guys are welcome to leave at your leisure. We're gonna go into public audience now. And public audience, you have up to 5 minutes. Let me get rid of all the 3-minute timers. And the first person on the list I have tonight is Joan Coe.
Joan Code 26 Woodford Drive. The Board of Selectmen held a hearing at the August 11, 2025 meeting for the purpose of hearing comments from the public related to proposed ordinance regarding dogs at and on town recreational field facilities, athletic fields, trails. The hearing was to hear from the public to address complaints about people leaving dog poop on grassy areas of town without picking up after them. This led to an ordinance to address dogs at recreational facilities, athletic fields, and trails, which was passed. If people took responsibilities for their dogs, an ordinance would not be needed. We have laws that require bicyclists on the road to follow signs and stop signs and traffic lights. These laws are rarely observed by the bicyclists, causing accidents, placing the public at risk. Alcohol consumption has caused family violence issues and deaths from impaired driving. Alcohol consumption, along with prescription and over-the-counter drugs, can impair driving. Impaired judgment leads to poor decision-making, risky sexual behavior, and increased likelihood of accidents. If the town was truly interested in regulating people's behavior, the Board of Selectmen should create an ordinance for no alcoholic beverages on town property. Town Attorney Bob Crescenzo has been town attorney since 1998, leading to a cozy relationship with the leadership of the town. Town Attorney DeCrescenzo is under a fixed cost contract with additional revenue for projects over 50 continual hours. First Selectman Wendy Maxusis continually states that Simsbury is very transparent and shares all expenditures. However, the town attorney DeCrescenzo does not list services rendered. Only recently has the invoices only showed his monthly payment with no record of activity. Where is the transparency? DeCrescenzo's contractual salary is $110,000, $9,166.67 per month for general representation. Town Attorney DeCrescenzo was told to attend Charter Revision Commission meetings at an additional cost. The listing for services rendered as of July is an additional $36,925. However, DeCrescenzo had to leave early at one meeting due to a conflict with another client. The town should audit the invoices for the Charter Revision Commission, since DeCrescenzo comes late and leaves early, reducing his hourly rate. Town Attorney DeCrescenzo is required to fill out a conflict of interest form. DeCrescenzo is representing Silman Group at the same time in both Simsbury and East Granby. This was not noted on the conflict of interest form, a violation of law. Not only is it a conflict, but Simsbury had to hire another attorney at great cost to the town due to the conflict. DeCrescenzo should be required to pay all expenses incurred by the town due to his conflict with the Silman Group. Taxpayers should not pick up this cost. Town Attorney DeCrescenzo should be replaced in the best interest of the town. Recently observed that the Mitchell Auto Group was advertising at Simsbury Farms Golf Course with various flyers that were attached to many of the buildings at the golf course. All the golf courses had advertising stickers attached to the sides, including the staff card. At Mitchell Auto Group, the car was displayed on the green at golf course. I posted pictures and collage of the flyers and car on Twitter at JoanCo. Posting states, Simsbury Mitchell Auto Group advertised Simsbury Farms golf course, end quote. I posted a quote for Thomas Jefferson that states equal rights for all, special privileges for none. To my surprise, over 900 people viewed the posting. It appears that Mark Mitchell received special privileges from Tom Taberski, Director of Culture and Parks and Recreation, to pepper the golf course with advertising and park a car on the green at golf course. Joe Hollis, Code-Compliance Officer, stated he does not regulate advertising at Simsbury Farms. Joe Hollis should oversee all signs in town, including signage at Simsbury Farms. The town should have a policy on advertising all town property, including open space, Simsbury Farms, and Simsbury Meadows. It appears that Steve Antonio has received special privileges when planning department considered an outdoor storage area was grandfathered, although the priority activity on the land was abandoned according to town policy. According to a memo from Joe Hollis, compliance officer, referencing the subject property, quote, is pre-existing non-conforming use that was established by the previous Hop Meadow car rental business 1983. The land was dormant for over 7 years before it was purchased by Steve Antonio in 2015 and should not be grandfathered. Joe Hollis stated in a memo, quote, we are currently working with the property owner to address the, quote, call your mother sign. The sign remains on the property. The planning and community development
20 seconds.
department should follow the law and not be an advocate for special individuals. All of my comments were posted on Simsbury Pat and Twitter at JoanCo. And again, I went below
Thank
my
you.
5 minutes.
Next,
Thank you very much.
Mark Ornstein.
Mark Ornstein, 82 Old Meadow Plain Road. Maybe I'll use a minute. On Saturday, I took a look at the agenda and I noticed the agreement for Memorial Hall rental. And I'd like to suggest just 2 sentences to be added to it, having to do with the audio system. The audio system was installed, what was it, about 12 years ago now, Tom?
I was gonna say 8.
Yeah. It's a Yamaha sophisticated system that supports multiple inputs. It has 3 outputs. One of the outputs is for the loudspeakers. 2 of the other outputs are for different assisted listening systems that are there. Organizations come in and some of them appropriately use that system and customize it. But sometimes they leave without decustomizing it. And I think there should be something in there about having to decustomize the audio system, putting it back to what it was, or else the town would have to hire somebody to do it. SCTV personnel have been trying to help out by restoring that system occasionally. Okay. I did it for a few years. I'm not an audio person, so I can't help out that much. But then Patrick was an audio system person and he would help Kathy or whoever else was up there restore it. But that's all I have to say. I wanna mention one more thing.
Okay.
SCM is down on cameraman volunteers. If anybody is interested in learning how to be a cameraman, camera woman, camera person, please contact us.
Sure, if I may.
Sure.
It was my note to myself after we heard from Dr. Viz about possibilities for
Volunteers.
to help at SCTV, and we'll bring that
Yeah,
up.
that's a great good idea.
We're thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know what the second thing was? What was, Mark, if I may, what was the second thing? The first thing was return the audio system to how you found it.
Yeah.
What was the second thing? I thought you had said there
The
were 2
second thing is we're
things.
looking for volunteers.
Got it,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, it wasn't related to Eno,
It was not yet.
although it is indirectly. Okay, next up I have Polly Rice.
Hi everyone, I'm Polly Rice. I live at 6 Pasture Lane in West Simsbury. And I have been on the Simsbury Library Board of Trustees for 12 years. Currently, I am the vice chair. And I'm here tonight to speak of the deputy director position that is being considered for the library. I'm asking you to please approve of this new position to ensure the continued success of the library and the town of Simsbury. Successful organizations have succession plans in place for all their important positions. And having this plan ensures that we retain excellent people, will save money on training and providing continuity in the good service that has and should continue to be available to the people of Simsbury. Thank you for your consideration, listening to me.
Okay, Holly?
Holly and Polly.
I was just gonna say that.
Thank you,
Polly.
Are we literally sharing glasses?
Yeah, I forgot mine.
I thought I saw glasses handoffs.
I forgot mine.
My name is Holly McGrath. I live at 2 Old Barge Road, and I'm currently the chair of the Library Board of Trustees. So as a board, we do endorse supporting the deputy director position, but I'm here to speak to the Board of Selectmen just to assure you that your town investment in the library is paying off and that we truly appreciate it. It's a vibrant, thriving community, and we welcome all. And as you note by our statistics, and we collect a lot of data in how the library is doing, we outperform neighboring or comparable communities in almost every metric, whether it's number of visits, number of programs, internet sessions, the usage of non-library rooms, which many of our commissions take advantage of, as well as just sheer attendance. And these are uncertain times, and I appreciated our speaker from Ethel Walker because to meet the challenges, our library is actively seeking partnerships with businesses, other libraries, community members, volunteers, and they're constantly looking for ways to grow and meet the challenges. We also know that there's challenges, whether it's economic or mental health, epidemic of loneliness. And the library isn't just about those statistics, it's about the people. And we know that the people can connect at the library. And so we see this approving of the deputy position is a continued investment in what the library is able to provide for the town. So we ask you to take that under consideration and know that this isn't just a position for one person. This is for the entire community and the benefit of all.
Thank you. Susan?
So my mind is a little bit of a blank right now, but I will do my best. As you know, I'm on the Open Space Committee. I'm speaking tonight as an individual. I'm a little surprised to hear that Culture Parks and Rec voted to approve the soccer field because Open Space was told we weren't allowed to talk about it in our meeting. So, because it didn't have anything to do with open space, because we weren't asked to talk about it, and that Curtis Park isn't open space, which in fact it is. So, putting that aside, I've told you my professional opinion as someone with a degree in biology, extensive biomedical experience, decades of work in research and in reading the primary literature, that turf fields are a problem. My son played soccer. If he was playing on a turf field, he's a goalie, that would have been a deterrent for me to allow him to play soccer. I don't understand how no one else in town is looking at this or talking about it. Some towns have banned new turf fields, or that open space wasn't allowed to talk about it. But I'll just say that it seems to be like a systematic attempt to not hear what someone like me has to say. And that in itself, I think, should be of concern to the public, because I've spent my life on education and health and my community, and spent my time and money and whatever skills I have on that, and I have zero conflicts of interest. So if I'm someone who's a problem, I think we have a problem. I just want to mention that this was initially not officially a public hearing, but now it is officially a public hearing. And if it is officially a public hearing, then there is official notices for public hearings and official documentation for what information is said in a public hearing, which is the name of the person, their expertise, and what they said. None of that has been documented because there's a table that says, were you a member of the public, a member of the soccer club, or a member of the Board of Selectmen? And there seems to be like a tally, like who's in favor and who's against, instead of considering the content or the expertise of what is being said. This is like beyond, I don't even know what to say. And I've talked before about minutes not being documented, like all this stuff. We shouldn't be doing anything until we can get these legal things of how do you notice a public hearing, document what people are saying, keep our minutes and all of that stuff under control. Like nothing else should happen until we figure that out. And I just wanna say that as I brought this up with people, they told me I should hire a lawyer so that the town would follow the rules. And other people told me, as I see a rapid hemorrhaging of our public trust under the guise of, oh, this is good public-private partnership. It's privatizing our public assets. We're on a sled of doing that, and so is every other town. And I thought Simsbury, that has invested so much in the public things we have, would not fall prey to this, what is going on for every industry. Sports stuff, renewable energy, housing, it's all to get public stuff into private pockets. And so people told me, hire a lawyer so that the town follows the rules. They told me I need to start a group, called the Public Trust Advocacy Group. And I said, why should I have to start a group to talk to the people that I elected to protect the public trust, to tell them to protect the public trust? I mean, it is like baffling to me what is going on. But I wanna say to everyone in public, if you would like a piece of the public trust, bring a proposal.
Is there anyone else here for the public audience? Lori.
Susan, don't leave. I'm Lori Boyko from 15 Oakhurst Road. I just wanna say that you can't bring something if you want a piece of the public trust, because you have to be a part of a special interest group to do that. I'd like to point out that the meetings in this town are at conflicting times. I wanted to go to the DEI meeting tonight that was scheduled at the exact same time as this. I ended up wanting to speak here, but the other meeting is not even being recorded. So there's something going on in another room in this building that nobody can go to if they wanna also go to the Board of Selectmen meeting, and we don't record the meetings. The Ethel Walker School is a lovely campus that a quick search indicates 225 girls attend annually. My sister went there. I certainly see its value, but as far as getting, quote, the most bang for the buck, they're getting all the bang and we're giving all the buck. So listening to that patronizing sales pitch literally made me nauseous. They're giving students $1,000 each to invest for their endowment while we're struggling to pay our property taxes that they don't contribute to at all. They should have gratitude, because without the need to contribute to the town tax base, they have ample money to reinvest in their exclusive student body. I'm glad I heard her speech though, because it fully illustrates the small, special, and moneyed interest groups that benefit from the town, while the rest of the ordinary residents, not entwined in special interests, are all left totally ignored.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here for public audience? Okay, consent agenda. I'm a little disorganized here. So for the consent agenda, as of now, I have the following orders on action on my list, and welcome any others. Like to move item A, E, F, M, A and under appointments and resignations, and B under appointments and resignations to the consent agenda.
I'd like to keep item F on that discussion.
Okay? Is that a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Is that a friendly amendment? Can I get can somebody?
Can you repeat those or just?
I'll move to put items A,
Thank you.
E, M, and under appointments and resignations A and B into the consent agenda.
So moved. Or second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, those are moved. Let me just check this one off. Okay, so it's now time for the first selectmen's report. I always say this, but I always try to keep it short because mine goes out to the public and I leave time for the selectmen tonight. I do wanna make a couple comments. Tom Roy will be here to talk about the oil spill that happened up on Gordon and in that neighborhood, so for those interested. We've had some correspondence on that and some work's been done. I would like to, because our next meeting is not till 9/24, which is a Wednesday, I'd like to wish everyone who celebrates a happy new year and Rosh Hashanah, which falls right before that. We have the PAC groundbreaking coming up on September 18th, which is a huge thing for this board because we approved investing into the Performing Arts Center Next Act, so hopefully everybody can come see us. Hopefully we get gold shovels. Are we getting gold shovels? Okay. Also I'll mention the clock tower in it. Also want to congratulate the Simsbury Soccer Club on their 50th anniversary. It looked like a great time over there over at Curtis. And I do have to just do a personal shout out. My daughter Leah Maxudis is getting married this Saturday. She was a kindergartner at Tooten Hill School. She graduated from Terriffill School, Henry James Middle School, and the high school, went on to Boston University, lives in New York City, is marrying Alex Sanchez, who they are the cutest and happiest couple. And I'm just trying to get through this meeting tonight so I could start thinking about the wedding, but I wanted to give her a shout out because she grew up in Simsbury and it's her home. So with that, I am going to turn this over to our town manager, Mark Nelson.
Thank you, Chair. Because of the urgency and frankly the alarm that many of our residents had who live in the affected area, I'm gonna give my time to Tom Roy, who's gonna be giving the board a brief update on the spill. For those who don't know, this was a USA Hauling piece of equipment that unfortunately had a hydraulic oil spill that has affected some of our residents. Tom, you wanna come up and just give the board a quick update? And thanks for your efforts on this, which I know have been ongoing. Take it away.
Sure. So on Friday, August 29th, late in the day on a Friday before a holiday weekend, unfortunately USA Hauling was operating a waste management truck. It broke a hydraulic line. The operator didn't realize this, ended up spilling the full contents of the hydraulic system, which is about 75 gallons. It affected Gordon, Willard, Howard, and Centerwood up in the neighborhood in the north end of town. Following the spill and the release, USA began cleanup operations with their own staff. I was notified of the amount of fluid that was up there. We sent one of our plow trucks to spread sand to make sure that, one, it wasn't a slippery surface for driving on, and more importantly, we wanted to make sure that it did not reach the edge of the roadway or into the waterways. All evidence is that minimal, if any, oil contacted with the ground. Most of that area up there had curbing, which kept the oil in the gutter, and there was no indications that any of the oil made it into the catch basins and into the waterway. DEP was on site that afternoon. They required USA Hauling bring in an environmental contractor to clean this up, professionals, that this is all they do. ESI out of South Windsor came out to do the work. They spread Speedy Dry. They had Simple Green. This, again, it's kind of what they do. They put it down. They swept up what they put in. They put it in special drums, and they actually pay to have it disposed of properly. Unfortunately, the road condition up there has some cracks and some fissures. It's a road that's probably due to be paved in a couple of years. The oil has infiltrated some of those cracks and fissures, and we are monitoring it. Unfortunately, the rain over this past weekend caused some of that oil, as oil floats on water, to come up and was certainly visible, and the road became, you could see the iridescent shine associated with wet oil. We have been continuing to monitor the situation. USA Hauling has hired a licensed environmental professional working for ESI to do additional testing. They've taken soil testing, they've tested inside of catch basins to see what, if any, movement of this oil has occurred. Parallel to that process, the town's environmental consultant, Atlas, has been out there to make sure, one, that the cleanup is done in accordance with industry standards, two, to determine if there are any long-term effects that the neighborhood needs to be aware of, and if so, what action should we be taking? We expect to get the soil sample results back most likely by tomorrow or Wednesday. And this was done through ESI. That will direct what the final report from our consultant says. DEP has been involved in this entire process. I haven't seen the final report, but as I've been told, their staff felt at the end of the day Friday, the cleanup was sufficient. We're looking to make sure it's done right. USA Hauling has given us commitment that they are in this for the long haul. They are paying out of their pocket for the licensed environmental professional. That certification is pretty significant within this industry. That person was on site and was quite impressive and made very clear that they're gonna do their job as they see fit, regardless of who's paying. So I know the residents, it's very frustrating because they wanna have answers. We won't have more answers till the end of this week. And I guess I'd be happy to take any questions.
I just was gonna ask, so you're sharing all this information, you have been keeping them up over the weekend and I've been sharing those with the board. Are there plans to just meet with them or send out a blast on what you just, obviously you're saying it here, just to share the
At this point,
timeline.
everything I've said at this point has been communicated in a number of emails. One or two of the residents there has done a nice job on our end and is kind of
Sharing.
sharing and that way we're getting one email chain as opposed to 15.
I know you mentioned the rain over the weekend and I know that was a concern going into the weekend and you saw obviously it came up. No indication it's gotten into the ground because I know residents were concerned, they're all on well over there and getting into aquifers and getting into the soil over there. How have you addressed, I mean, you kind of mentioned that, but I know that's one of their top concerns at this point.
It's one of their top concerns and it's challenging for me right now because a lot of the hard information that I'd like to see, I haven't seen yet. The material, the actual oil that was spilled, the SDS sheet, the safety data sheet, I haven't received that yet, but I've been told that it clearly listed as non-toxic and not harmful to animals or wildlife. I'd like to see that myself. Hydraulic oil tends to stay on top and on the surface. It doesn't necessarily want to drive down into the soil. But again, this is an area I'm familiar with, but there are people who are more qualified and I'm waiting to see their final reports.
Thank you, Tom. Chair, that'll conclude my report, although I'll just echo fantastic dedication ceremony at the clock tower, adding to our new flagpoles and all the work that we've done. Thanks again to Tom and the team here at Town Hall. It really looks fantastic out there, so
That's
come a long way.
quick one then, Mark.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'm gonna start the Selectmen liaison and subcommittee reports and I'm gonna start actually with Steve tonight, switch it up a little. You ready?
Yeah, I actually wrote some notes. I wanted to comment that as a member of the personnel subcommittee, we went through we do interviews to fill positions. And our most recent one was the EDC we found Gary Schless, wonderful guy, really fits the position to a T. And among the candidates was another Simsbury resident, David Griggs, who just had an overwhelming amount of economic knowledge, which we had. It's like untapped. He'll be presenting to EDC, but basically it's amazing how many people volunteer in our town and how much knowledge there is in our town that they contribute. So just an open thank you to everyone that volunteers. The EDC has greenlit the vacant office space project and will be meeting with Simsbury Main Street partnership to begin implementation. For those that are unaware, our office space vacancy rate is 26 to 27% and we're finding it exceptionally difficult to fill any office space. So what the plan will do is identify these spaces and then research alternatives to office space wherever it's applicable. Simsbury Main Street Partnership had their big event of the year, which was Taste in Simsbury. They yet again set a record and it was great to everyone that participated, myself included. The Main Street Partnership is also presenting a formal request to the Board of Selectmen in the coming weeks regarding Placer AI. For those that don't know what that means, Placer AI is where they take anonymous cell phone data and track people in an economy. So they figure out where people are, if they're from Simsbury or coming to Simsbury, where they spend their money, and more importantly, they identify the holes in our economic fabric so that we can develop economically. Lucky Gut Collective will have the ribbon cutting. This is the big ribbon cutting that's coming up. It's part of Fiddler's Green. It's gonna be on Saturday, September 20th at 10 a.m. They're gonna have live music, raffles, food samples, and children activities. It's a great new concept, not just a new business in the old Drew space, and anyone that's around on Saturday, September 20th, it'd be great if you could attend.
Well, thank you. Diana?
Board of Ed is meeting tomorrow, but I did wanna note that there is a new Simsbury High School Assistant Principal, Scott Redmond, who was approved. For Culture Parks and Rec, there is the Friends of the Simsbury Farm Golf Outing, which is September 26th. Please sign up. You've already mentioned the Simpac groundbreaking, but additionally, there is Spooktacular Booze and Brews, which has come back this year. The booze,
Booze, that's B-O-O-S, right?
B-O-O-S, Spooktacular Booze, and then Brews for the adults. So combining the Spooktacular and Brewfest, it's now October 18th. Lots of information on that. Aging and Disability Commission, I do have flyers. This Friday, we have our Aging in Place Expo at the library from 12 to 3:30. It is a free event for seniors, learning about the different array of services and agencies that can help us learn how to make our homes safe and comfortable as we age, and it's ways to be able to age in place. The Super Thursday Fashion Show is October 9th at noon. And there's a lot of great things. I wanna just make sure people know that every couple of months there's the senior communicator. There's a lot of really good information in the senior newsletter about services, about different things for seniors, lunches, activities, programs, bingo, and there's also an update on the Memorial Hall site entrance renovation that was done. So be sure to pick this up. It's available at the senior center and I believe at the library as well. So here it is, if anybody would like a copy. Fair Rent Commission, the only thing I wanna mention is that we did have another new complaint that came in, and I just wanna note that there has been an increase in fair rent complaints at one particular complex. That not only has the rent been going up significantly to existing residents, but they are no longer including heat. It was taken over by a new landlord or a developer took it over, and they are no longer grandfathering in existing renters, and everybody now has to pay for heat, which is electric, so their electric bills are going up. So stay tuned, we're going to be having more fair rent hearings.
Thank you. Kevin?
We're gonna discuss the library position tonight, so I look forward to discussing that here, and you've already heard from members of the trustees. Thanks to the members here who were able to go to the Korea and Vietnam Veterans event, and thanks to Lieutenant Governor for putting that honor as the first selectman did earlier. I'll say a point of personal privilege on that. My father was a Vietnam veteran, is a Vietnam veteran, and when he came home, he never felt proud of his service, never got the opportunity to feel proud. And it makes me feel good to know that we were able to do that for our residents here in town, and that we made a big deal of it. So I appreciate that. In celebration of the semi-sesquicentennial coming up, the 250th anniversary of the nation, there's a kickoff on Saturday, the 27th at Memorial Hall, a reading of the Declaration, and you might get to meet some of the Connecticut signers of the Declaration at the event. So I look forward to seeing many of you there. Yours truly may have a tricorn hat.
We do have, we've seen them
Partnering with Theater Guild.
That's right. That's right. Alright, that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Kevin. Heather?
I have from the ambulance board meeting, their call volumes for July. They had 244 dispatches, 223 SVAA responses, 19 calls for mutual aid into Simsbury, 21 calls out, and 146 transports. They also are replacing their third ambulance, it has a 6-month lead time, They purchased in 2012. Ambulance 1 is from 2023 and ambulance 2 is from somewhere in the 20 to 21 range. So they are hoping to get on a 5-year replacement plan with their ambulances, but that's what's going on there. And they are still working through their social media fund drive, and to date they're at $104,842.
Curtis?
We had police commission right before this meeting. They have 3 open positions. Officer Butler completed his field training, so he's now out on his own. Be happy to know that the records room work has started. What we approved before. They are currently using, as of today, using Power BI, but so the public can see all the police records, so you can see stats on crime, how many cars are broken into, everything you can see. It's listed now on the police website. They had the senior picnic last week. They had 163 seniors at that event, which some board members were there. They had the Clio award, so they're certified, so now it's Clio certified. October 11th, they're trying to do a car show to support the union. And then for zoning, they approved the zoning for Two Farms Village. They also it may affect the soccer field thing, but they're working on dark skies for any new building construction. So all new building construction would have to comply with dark skies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think now it's time to move into selectmen action. Bob, do you wanna sit at the table over there? Or are you comfortable sitting? You're comfortable there? Okay. So we're here to talk about the Simsbury Soccer Club lease, and we've heard from many people over the 3 nights. We've heard various views. Since the last meeting, this has gone to our town attorney to provide your legal recommendation. What's the term, legal? There was a different term.
Legal review?
Yep, you did the legal review and provided us with your comments, which I believe most have been incorporated into the latest agreement, have been discussed with Ben Berger, president of the Simsbury Soccer Club. I will highlight a couple of those because they were concerns from the public and from the board. One of them was the term, to reduce it from a 20-year term to a 10-year term and a 5 and 5 for review. The other thing that is completely really not in the agreement any longer is the recommendation, or wasn't a recommendation, but the turf field situation. I do have some questions on that, and I wanna open it up for the board on that and how to handle that with that now not part of this, cause there's little snippets of it in a couple places. And then any other changes that, Mark, do you wanna talk about any other changes that have been made since this was brought back? It's still in a final draft mode, I guess?
Right. Yeah, I think just Chair, to your point, we made all of the recommendations from the town attorney. There was one that Bob had made that we reject the fiscal impact analysis, which we did. Just again, and Tom T is with us to speak on this if there are questions, but other fees related to usage are simultaneously or later increasing. So we're, finance is okay with this. The other thing is that the draft in front of you has been thoroughly reviewed by our risk manager from the insurance and also from the risk perspective. So I think we've checked the boxes between the legal review, the risk management review, and of course, we've made a tremendous number of edits and changes. And I'd like to thank the town attorney for his work with over several months to get this done. I'm happy to take any questions.
I'll open up to the board.
I have a question for you. On point 3, it says when outside of SSC's exclusive use time period, fields can be used in any capacity that current regulations allow. I know we haven't done the dog leash regulation yet, so would this maybe it's just a technical term, but would this come in? Because the current regulations, you can have a dog on a leash or off a leash.
I defer to our attorney on this, but just to say that whatever the board chooses to do with respect to the dog leash ordinance would be an ordinance, and that's a local law. And this agreement is subject to whatever laws the
So the fact that it says current regulations doesn't.
Well,
No.
current isn't current at that point in
Current,
time, yeah.
If the dog leash regulation were to go in place, it would apply.
Does somebody else have a question? Could you just take a question? Yeah.
Yeah, and I also just wanted to, I have a question, but before I get to that, but I did wanna just make a point, since it was brought up during public audience, on the public gathering permits, what the blanket gathering permit is for the regular use of the soccer fields as they're being currently used. In number 11, it clearly states that they would obtain a public gathering permit for any large events that are not part of the club's annual routine activities. So, it's just, you don't have to get a public gathering permit every Saturday for every single game because you're gonna have so many people there. So I only wanted to clarify that for the public since it was brought up. But my question is, how are we going to, and this may be a little bit more complicated, when we know we wanted to remove the turf as a like we don't want it part of this and if there is a time that they want to look at putting turf on, it's something that we reject, and I know it would have to go to land use boards anyway, but what kind of protections can we put in that in the event that turf fields may want to be put on at a future date, with this board is not here, you're not there, and it could be 10 years from now in the new agreement, that it's approved back at this, it comes back to this board again, because this is the understanding that, that the agreement that this board body, I should say, not the select board, but this body approves. And if we want to make sure that turf is out, it comes back.
Bob, so that's a question I asked Bob, and I think he's prepared
Yes,
to answer this, because it is referenced in the work that they plan to do, and in a couple cases excludes it, but it doesn't give us anything if there is a plan for turf. We were asking how to handle that.
Right, well, the agreement as revised does not have a plan for turf fields, it's outside the scope of this agreement.
Yep.
If the soccer club wanted to come forward and present a plan for a turf field on town-owned land, this is still town-owned land, they would have to make that presentation to the Board of Selectmen as the owner of the land. And keep in mind, no land use application can be submitted without the signature of the owner, which is the Board of Selectmen in this case. And at that point, the Board of Selectmen, whether it's this group or the next group or the group down the road, I would recommend establish criteria for the evaluation of that proposal. A turf field is, in my view, a site plan modification. It's a fairly significant construction project with permanent improvements associated with it. And that would come to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen could at that point say, well, if you want us to consider it, we need the following criteria addressed. How much does it cost? How long does it last? What's the replacement schedule? Will there be some form of reserve fund for its maintenance? All the dimensions of placing a turf field on that land before the Board of Selectmen. I just think it's beyond the scope of this agreement to reference it here.
So let me ask you the question. So say in 5-6 years, none of us are here. And somebody picks, and Mark, maybe you're not here either. And somebody picks up this MOU and it doesn't mention turf. Who knows to bring it back to this board? How do we acknowledge that in the MOU that it has to come back here, or is that like a given?
Well, it is a given because you're the landowner and you can't put a turf field in without the consent of the landowner because it's not allowed under this license agreement. But if you wanted us to put a reference to that fact into the next iteration of the draft, we could certainly do that. And I don't think, Ben, you and I have talked about it, I don't think you're adverse to that, I mean.
Is the question saying, our understanding of the agreement has always been that what we're doing is an MOU for licensure purposes, and that any steps that we had wanted to take as far as approvals for structures, for fields, for lighting would have to go through the customary process of the town in order to get those approvals. Whatever that process is, and in certain circumstances, it would be zoning, it might have to do with some waterways, environmental, whatever it is, that the steps that an applicant would have to go through, we would have to go through.
Including signature of the owner on any land use application. And that signature could be conditioned on the presentation of a plan for review by the Board of Selectmen in place at the time, prior to authorizing the town manager to sign that land use application. Turf field is I consider it to be a permanent site improvement and a fairly significant construction project. And that's not allowed under this current version of the license agreement without the consent of the board. Same with field lighting. Field lighting is also, as you all know, something that the community is always very concerned about. And wants to know the details that would fall into the same category.
Well, field lighting is sort of called out in here, I believe, that it has to come back to the town manager.
That's correct.
So, and then to Ben's point, if Simsbury Soccer Club puts in the pavilion, right, a pavilion, that doesn't come to our board, that will go straight to a land use board.
No land use application can get in front of a land use commission without the signature of the owner, which in your case is the Board of Selectmen.
So so anything that's going to happen there regardless is coming to this board, okay.
And we can choose to approve to submit it to go to land use board or say we do not.
That is correct.
So
That's
just
what I
to
wanted
put
to
a pin
know.
in that, the town is the applicant.
Yeah.
And everyone, and that's also stipulated in here.
That's also in the
Okay.
agreement
And we're
that
the
the town
town.
would be the applicant for every land use application and if you choose when you believe that that land use application is ready to go to land use.
Okay.
I don't think under the current version of the license agreement, I don't think you're giving up any future decision making on construction of improvements on this land. Now, there may be very good reasons to disapprove it. Some of the things talked about are, you know, I think of this in the same way that I remembered when the PAC agreement was being generated over a course of time. And it didn't happen in 1 year, it was over a course of years that those improvements were made, always with, even though they had an MOU and have had it for many, many years, all those improvements came back to the selectmen for approval.
Okay. Thanks for that. I have I'm gonna ask you one other, this is a small question. On the finance portion, I'm trying to find that, where the town, if it needs to come back, the wording for the having to have an appropriation is not in here. If it's if we're the contractor, right? Is that necessary to be in here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Before you can sign any construction contract as the contracting party,
Okay,
you're gonna need to identify a funding source, an appropriation,
okay,
and that appropriation would have to go through the normal procedures. This is very much like the memorial down at the library, where there was a private group that wanted to construct a memorial on town-owned land, did the fundraising, did the plans, subject to the town review. And then when that actually went out to bid, they made a donation to the town, and that was used as a supplemental appropriation to fund that contract, but the supplemental appropriation was made before the contract was signed. As is always the case with every town contract, you have to have a supporting appropriation.
okay. Other questions or any concerns, flags?
In the arbitration section, it says that that the decision of the arbitrator would be final. What are our obligations as a board? Do we have to still vote to approve it as we sometimes do when there's other legal disputes? Is it actually final if the arbitrator does it?
Under Connecticut law, if you submit a contract, if the contract calls for arbitration, final and binding arbitration as part of the contract, then and you're limited to that dispute resolution process. You can go to court to challenge the arbitrator's award, but it's a very, very high bar to overturn the arbitrator's award in court. So yes, it would have to come here for your approval, but your town attorney, whoever that may be, would probably advise you that there's real grounds to overturn the arbitrator's award. This contract unequivocally chooses arbitration as the dispute resolution mechanism, which is probably sensible because something like this, you don't wanna have civil litigation go on for years over something in the contract.
It seems more likely that the parties would walk away, I think, anyway, I don't know. It seems,
Yeah, I mean, I always try to keep in mind the nature of the parties here. And you've got such a long-standing, very good relationship with the club, going back 50 years, I think. That it's very unlikely, in my view, it's very unlikely that any dispute would end up in arbitration. You'd probably just work it out.
Yeah.
But if you couldn't, there's a mechanism there for final dispute.
So knowing that, why is it really necessary to even have an arbitration clause in the contract?
Well, if you don't have a dispute resolution clause in the contract, then you're left with civil court unless there's an agreement to arbitrate. This, the way it's written, solves that issue by saying you're agreeing to arbitrate now. And arbitration generally is faster and generally less expensive than going to civil court for resolving contract disputes, which is what this would be limited to.
I just wanna clarify, when we did hold this public hearing, we were told we did not need a formal public hearing, it was a public hearing to hear from people, and it was not noticed, right, because it was just correct, because it was not formal. I have asked if we needed a formal public hearing because there's a statute, but this is not a lease agreement or a transfer of land, so.
This is not a conveyance.
A conveyance,
of an
because
interest
then
in
you would
land.
have to
This
have.
is a license agreement for seasonal use of a public facility.
And that was why we wanted to hear from the public to make sure we heard what people had to say. As far as I just wanna, Tom, I'm gonna call on you. The reason this came to Parks and Rec, right, is that because Parks and Rec supports the soccer fields? That was a while ago, I was just curious.
Well, excuse me, Culture Parks and Recreation is an advisory group to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
The soccer, just like any of our sport groups, comes in annually to speak to the Culture Parks and Recreation to report on their activities, what they're doing, talk about any challenges they're facing. They made a presentation concerning a request for an MOU. They made a presentation based on what they wanted to do, fundraising. That the Culture Parks and Recreation Commission chose to recommend that to your board, and that was in December of 2024.
Okay.
They recommended the proposal, and they recommended that the Board of Selectmen consider the MOU.
Okay, and one of the conversations we had at Open Space was this is really it's space, it's town-owned land that is used in a designated capacity. And it came kind of after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can all have different opinions on things, but my opinion would be that the Curtis Park is a park athletic field complex. It's the vast majority of Curtis Park that we're talking about is not open space. And the project that they were considering enhancements to is the south side of Route 315, not the riverside.
Okay.
Not that the entire complex isn't in the floodplain, but again, we have different groups in town or different commissions who support different activities. My recommendation was that this is an athletic field complex, a park. That's the Culture Parks that's what they felt was their prerogative to recommend that.
And just to put open space to some, I don't know, it would have to come to us, and we can encourage studies, engage different parties to make sure that this is in the best interest of the residents of town for safety and things like that. Just like other towns have done, other towns have actually, I know we do have some turf fields at the high school, right? But we also have You had mentioned that Glastonbury people don't want turf fields in general. And so that is also the purview of the Board of Selectmen if that's something we ever wanna take up in the future,
That's correct.
right? Okay, I'm gonna ask any other comments before I ask for the.
So I just wanna make it clear to the community and to people listening that this is the MOU for usage. It doesn't, we're not approving the build, we're not approving the lighting or field or anything else. Right now, it's just usage of partnership and usage of the field use. It's I know you want it to fundraise for a future project, but at this time, we are not approving any projects. Doesn't mean that may not happen, but I just wanna make it clear for the public audience.
One last question. So we have the plan for Curtis Field. We also had in our packet, in our capital plan, parking money. The parking money was funded, not planned for this coming budget or next budget. We're not asking for any urgent need that the parking is top of the list for the Curtis Park Master Plan. Is the Curtis Park Master Plan for the work that is gonna be done based on the needs of Curtis Park and the soccer club? Like, we're not weighing in on the order of improvements, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But we will know what they are as they happen.
We do not plan currently to retain the 500,000 parking in the proposed capital plan, which is forthcoming. We're working on our capital planning for the next 5 years, as the board knows, and you're gonna be engaged in that ranking as well.
Yeah.
But as with many partnerships, we look for ways that we can save some taxpayer money, and that's one of them, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for a motion effective September 8th, 2025 to authorize the town manager Mark Nelson to execute a license agreement with the Simsbury Soccer Club regarding their exclusive use of the soccer fields at Curtis Park as presented.
I'll make that motion. I'd like to add comment during discussion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Kevin?
So I look at this and tried to evaluate it based on what we have in front of us, and what we have in front of us is a field that's being used for soccer. And the Simsbury Soccer Club has been a good neighbor and a good partner. They've represented themselves, I think, honestly and fairly through the process. And I have no reason to have a concern about their ability to continue to manage it as they've done in the past. This agreement, if it weren't to come into effect, I think that the fields would continue to be used for soccer in the near future. If the agreement weren't to pass, I think that it severely limits the ability for the club to do exactly what they've said to us, is to be able to build the necessary capital and fundraising campaign to improve on the fields and the overall program, and I think that that's reasonable. So in front of me, in my fiduciary responsibility for the town, I think I have to look at the highest and best use for that area. I see no other higher or better alternative than to be able to use it for recreation. I do think that this board will have responsibility in the future and what actually goes there, and not make any bait and switch with the Simsbury Soccer Club and assuming that because a turf field was presented here that's gonna be easy to be able to approve in the future. Nor do I think it's fair for the general public to feel like a field was taken away for them to be able to use. And that's why, for me, knowing that it was a soccer field yesterday, and it'll be a soccer field tomorrow if we vote to approve it, it gives me confidence that it will work. I also think that the provisions in the agreement give us the necessary exits that are necessary in case something were to substantively change, either in the ability for the club to be able to do its part, or for our understanding and the necessary use of the fields. So that's why I plan to vote for it.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks,
Will be
Bob.
here, are you staying?
Staying.
Okay, alright, let's move on. The next item is the enacting of the withholding building permits. We only had one public audience. Anybody have any comments they wanna make regarding this ordinance?
I'm sorry, you're on the tax delinquent properties?
I'm on C, yes.
Yes.
So let's see, okay.
So I'll speak up
Okay.
since no one else is. Basically, you know, it was inferred by a member of the community that we should stop people sooner, but you can't because you want them to develop and pay our back taxes. This proposal is exactly where it should be and exactly what it should be. If you've got the money to develop, pay your taxes. Otherwise, you can't develop. If you've got the concept that you wanna run an idea through our town planner or other departments and develop and pay the taxes, then we should allow them the opportunity to speak with town staff. So I am in full support of this because it fixes something that's broken or disconnected, and B, the timing of it is right on rhythm with where it should be.
Okay, thank you. I'm just gonna make the motion, I ask for a motion effective September 8th to enact the proposed ordinance of Town Code Chapter 70, Article 2, withholding building permits on tax delinquent properties as presented, which shall be effective 21 days after publication in a newspaper having circulation within the town of Simsbury. Further move to authorize a summary of the ordinance be published.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any further discussion?
I know that the town attorney just left order, but there's a section in here, number 3, where it says that an emergency exists and that was partially referenced during the public comment about. I just don't understand for sure if that's a you know, an actual legal term that benefits us here to include that as an emergency, and I don't know what constitutes a building emergency one versus another. Is it a building emergency that somebody has faulty wiring in their house and they need a permit for that to be worked on? The GFCI is tripping more frequently. You know, that it's not an emergency that it's tripping, it's maybe an inconvenience, you know, until the fire happens. An emergency is a tree fell through my roof and I need to patch it, that feels like an emergency. So it's just unclear to me to be able to give guidance what that means, and so I'd offer that maybe we just strike the emergency exists.
So
That certifies that it's necessary for the health, safety and welfare of the occupants of the building.
So I understand the intention of that. And basically, let's say I owe the government, I'll just take it on. I own the government here, which I don't, just so we're clear, $1,000.
Let the record reflect.
And I'm hard up, I don't have $1,000. But the tree hit my building, or there's
There's a car that drove through
sewer,
your
or there's something
Oh,
in the
geez,
well
that's true.
that I need to deal with the well. I don't have the money to pay the $1,000 and then fix that. This is the clause that allows them to fix what is broken if they can't satisfy. It's not a roundabout to develop the land. It's I believe it's necessary, because otherwise you cannot fix something that's broken. It almost forces you to be even worse to your tenants or whoever. So I do see the validity in this, and I would be a proponent for it remaining.
What if we, Kevin, what if we add something like without the satisfaction, as it's allowed to have the building permit relating to the emergency? Something like that.
Sure, the question that I had is whether or not emergency was the right language, so my suggestion was that the building official certifies that the permit is related to the health, safety and welfare of the occupants of the building. So instead of saying that an emergency exists. An emergency building permit just gives me pause. I'm willing to support it if others think this is the appropriate language, it just stands out to me as being.
If I could share.
Yeah, yes, you can, always.
Similar to a building permit, this actually happened in Hartford, but they needed the permit for demo after a fire, and you know, technically, you know, but you wanna bring the building down and make it safe. In that situation, it was a vacant building anyway. It wasn't for the benefit of the owners or the residents or the occupants. It was for the safety of the neighborhood and the community. But I think also, and the town attorney isn't here, but the use of the word emergency is understood to be declared. So the building inspector would say, I say it's an emergency, it's an emergency. So I would recommend not changing it. This was language that the town attorney found from another town that has almost identical language, and you know, we wanna leave ourselves, I think, a little wiggle room. As Stephen said, somebody might not be able to afford to pay it, and you know, could be an emergency.
I'm prepared to vote.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
that passes. Okay, well, I'm just wondering if we should make before 8 o'clock, move the library item up, so these guys don't have to sit here till
Up to you,
8:30.
Can I just ask, well, no, go ahead.
You could ask, what do you wanna ask?
Just, you're also facing a deadline to add something to the agenda. What's the board's, any idea on your preference on the dog related facilities ordinance?
Well, that's next,
Right.
so what do you mean added?
Is there a sense that would pass, or
Why? What does that have to do with 8 o'clock?
you can't add a motion to add a schedule of public hearing? But I
Oh,
don't wanna-
another public hearing? I thought
If
we
you-
said
if
we
you-
didn't need a public hearing, that it wasn't changed drastically.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. If you're not changing it, if you.
Well, we're gonna do that one next. I'm
Okay.
just asking to move up the library one.
Okay,
Right.
we'll take it.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
Does somebody wanna make a motion
I
to?
I make a motion to move J, approval of proposed upgrades to the head of the Children's Services job description up to the next.
No, under D. I
Under
still
D.
wanna do
Under
the
D,
dogs.
please.
To the dog. This is
Move J up to D, or up to E,
Is there
Second.
all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. So now we're on the dogs, the recreational facilities. The public hearing was last month. We had asked Tom Taberski and the town to integrate the comments that were presented at the last meeting by the board into a more substantial, robust, I just don't know what word I'm supposed to use.
Cleaner.
Cleaner
No pun
dog
intended.
ordinance for dog poop, and there's no TV here tonight, which we're not gonna know what happened. So Tom, do you wanna kind of talk about some of the changes? Do you want us to just talk amongst ourselves?
I mean, I know you've all had a chance to review it. I mean, it's pretty clear in your copy what verbiage has been changed and what we've added. We did bring back the service dog. We took out the exclusion for the service dog to make that clear. We defined what common areas, or we defined what recreational trail means. Again, I think this is about public safety. It's about, the sanitary conditions on some of the athletic fields. I think we got lost a little bit in the minutia with the dog waste and things like that. Our town is beautiful. People do a nice job picking up. I walked the entire trail this morning, or before this meeting actually. Not one poop bag between Drake Hill Road and Route 315, which I'm happy to say that. The poop and the barrels were both empty tonight, as they were regularly, usually on the Monday schedule. This is about dogs on athletic fields. Not everybody is great about picking up their waste. People would still be allowed at Simsbury Meadows to walk the fence line. What we could define an athletic field is the area in the white lines. If you wanna walk your dog around the outside of the fence, that's great. If you wanna walk your dog around the inside of the fence, that's great. We're just asking that you don't run, you're not running your dog free on an athletic field. Whether it's a baseball field, a softball field, a soccer field, football field, or a lacrosse field. You can't be watching, if you allow one dog, you're gonna allow all the dogs. We have people who bring 4 dogs to Memorial Park and let their dogs run free while our staff is trying to mow the field at the same time. You can't tell me you can watch all 4 dogs at the same time and make sure you didn't, one didn't poop it and you didn't get the chance to pick it up. Regardless of if your dog's pooping, urine still kills the grass. We spend a lot of money and take a lot of care to maintain the turf for those fields, for the safety of those who are using it, whether it's adults or children. That's what this is about, and I hope you will support it.
Does anybody have any questions or comments
I have
on?
a question on Acton Central School was removed.
Cause I asked that last time and because I was told it was
It was
Troy's
listed-
thing.
It was listed twice, I'm sorry about that.
Number
15.
I do have one.
Yeah, sure.
Is the leash length in here
Yeah,
acknowledged
it's a
then?
big-
Yes.
Under the definition for restrained.
Okay, I would ask, because there is in-season and off-season that we don't define the leash length. I only see that as problematic. And I just,
I'm on
I
board.
use a retractable leash.
I'm
I've
on
tried
board
to
with that.
get
It's a good
Tom
compromise.
with it,
Okay.
but yeah,
And
that
Kevin
puts
brought
me
that
on,
up last
so.
week, I brought that up, I would like to just have it say leash.
Yep.
And we can make that adjustment. I do have another question, because we're really talking about fields here. At one point, people talked about town buildings and stuff like that, we're not really
So-
addressing that here because
You wouldn't, I mean,
Yeah.
let's use the area out front here as an example, that's
Yeah.
town-owned outdoor space. Would you really want a dog outdoor, running?
no, on your leash though, you could bring your dog and walk it.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a common area, but the dog still needs to be properly restrained.
So the
The current
question,
town code does not say that, just that's, the
Okay.
current town code or ordinance just says dogs must be under the owner's control, it doesn't mention the word leash or restraint at any point.
okay, so it's really a leash, we try to keep saying that, it's a anti-poop and leash law.
Properly
Rolled into
restrained,
one.
properly restrained dog,
Right.
yes.
Okay, alright, so I'm gonna ask anybody else before we read the
So
motion.
I think that leashes in certain areas are okay, but there's some areas too where on a trail, for instance, I think it's not inappropriate for an owner or keeper of a dog who has an animal that can be properly controlled to be able to do that, and it's not clear to me. It seems that this the way that this is written, it includes all of our trails as requiring a leash or the physical restraint versus just being under the control.
Yeah, I'm not,
So-
yeah,
If I could, I think this also edges as everything in today's world on liability. And let's say your dog, who is under your control, all of a sudden gets bit by a bear, which is real. They're omnivores, they eat meat as well as vegetables. If we don't specify they should be on a leash, we are sort of guaranteeing their safety, the pet's safety. And I think just, that's got some legs. Tom, what do you think?
You took the words right out of my mouth, that's one of the examples I was gonna use.
A bear?
If we don't, yeah, we're actually on the same page. I think that's a great example. The other example I would have used, Steve, would be if your dog is on a trail and, we have a lot of trails where people are coming from different directions. You could have a small child, you could have the dog run ahead and something spooks the dog, bites the child. We didn't, town trail, we didn't post any signage that said you had that or have any language that you said the dog needed to be properly restrained on a trail and we have a dog bite on a trail. The example you were using with the bear, I think we've seen so many news stories, there was just one in the paper over the weekend about the guy in Granby who got hurt, his dog was getting torn apart by the bear, he's trying to get his dog away from the bear. I think any one of us who love our dogs, you're gonna get closer, you're putting yourself in danger when you're getting closer to the bear, trying to get your dog to come back because they're having that interaction with the bear at that point.
I think it's a seatbelt on a motorcycle kind of thing, right? It may give the appearance that it's providing additional safety, but I don't think that's the reality in a tragic situation like that, unfortunately. I don't think that I support the idea of a leash law and the public trails for all the reasons that I mentioned. I think that encouraging our residents to follow the law and whether or not they will follow the law that we pass, I think is really important, and I don't think it's highly likely that a lot of dog owners who are comfortable with their dog on the trails will actually do this, and so I think it opens up the opportunity that more people will not follow this, and I think the additional safety is I think still not clear to me. So I would ask that we modify that language that not require it on all town trails. I can understand it for all the parks and all the dense areas where people are, but we're talking about a very open and less dense area. And the state law already covers this, and it covers the language exactly like what Tom said. It needs to be under the control of the individual. The liability is there for the owner, you need to be aware of that. Through our licensing process with the town clerk, I think there's opportunities for us to educate the public and include additional information on safety in the parks and with your dog on trails, and how you can help your dog to be safe while you're with them, but I don't think that we need to necessarily pass an overly restrictive ordinance in order to accomplish that. Everything else in this I support.
so I guess you could make a friendly amendment and we could vote to include that or not.
Can I just speak on one more?
Yeah, cause I'm,
When we say trails, if you say every trail, we have one of the most heavily used trails going 7 miles through the center of town. If we were to have dogs off leash on that trail with e-bikes and bikes and small kids, joggers running, you're risking a dog bite or a dog incident or a crash between a bicycle and a dog because the dog wasn't restrained. I think what you're talking about is a trail through the woods, maybe that there's not gonna be a lot of people around, maybe Ethel Walker Woods or something like that. We define our trails as we have the fitness trail at Simsbury Farms, we have the multi-use trail here, we have the Farmington River Trail that goes through town forest. those are heavily used trails. If you allow dogs to be off leash on those trails, we're my opinion, we're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Is there a leash law that requires them to be leashed now?
Town code here says just properly,
Right, that's-
says under the owner's control. My dog may know come, it doesn't know stop or something, you know.
Sure, yeah, no, I get it.
You know, we're leaving that up to interpretation where a properly restrained dog is on some kind of a leash.
Also, I would just weigh in as I'm totally in favor of a leash because if a dog is with their owner off leash, even under the dog's command, is coming towards me nicely, it's gonna freak out my dog and myself to not know the dog. I don't know the dog, so I you know, I've had experiences like that. My dog's always been on a leash, except maybe up in the Penwood words in the old days and so first of all, before we go any further, I did forget to take this off the table. I did that at the other time. So I'm gonna retrospectively ask to move to take this off the table so that we could move the next motion. So somebody wanna make that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. And then I'm gonna ask for a motion effective September 8th to enact the proposed ordinance of Town Code, Chapter 65, Article 2, dogs at recreation facilities, athletic fields and trails as presented with the change to take out the leash length. So just say leash, which shall be effective 21 days after publication in a newspaper having circulation within the town of Simsbury. Further move to authorize a summary of the ordinance be published.
So moved.
Second.
So item 13 should say Henry James Memorial School instead of middle school, so that it fits with that. But I still have concerns about being overly broad on the use of that.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, so it's 5-1. Thank you. Okay, now we have the
Library.
the library, I gotta pull it out of here. Item J. So just for the Board of Selectmen's, the Personnel Subcommittee has talked about this probably a couple meetings. I think we tabled it our first meeting, we brought it back. We've asked a lot of questions and we gave the courtesy to bring it to the full board. We felt like we didn't wanna be, we wanted the full board to weigh in on this. I can know what I want, I think it's in here what the comments were. We had questions regarding the union, we had many questions regarding the salary coming right after the budget and not being discussed at the budget. So I'm gonna open this up to others to ask questions because we've asked a lot of questions up until this point. And then we can talk about where we wanna go with this.
So previously, when this was brought here, it was presented as a reclassification. And it specifically dealt with the deputy director and listed the other positions as the other supervisory positions all in that, but this time it's presented to us with just the head of children's services. Can you talk about that a little bit as well?
Sure, some of the, thanks for that question. Some of the comments and discussion coming out of Personnel Sub and also Eric Gomes and I, our HR director who's here tonight for the record, appeared in front of the Library Board of Trustees a couple months ago and a very good dialogue back and forth. And so the answer to that question is that we wanted to simplify this and clarify. The original intent was to provide a rotating ability so that I refer to them as 3 division heads. Either of the 3 could be put into that role. The idea being that we wouldn't have to come back years from now and make a change if one was necessary. But in the interest of simplification and making it clearer what the management intent is here, that was one of the changes that came out of those discussions. And if I could, Chair, within the packets in front of you are the current job description and the proposed job description. And that's really what we're here to talk about tonight is the approval of this board is needed to approve the job description. That's pursuant to the charter section that's quoted in the memorandum. And that's the question, that we wanna focus the board's attention on, is the desire from management, supported by the Library Board of Trustees, to adapt and amend and revise the current job description for the incumbent. And I just emphasize again, as we did in the memo, that it is not a new position in terms of headcount, and it has a limited fiscal impact. Thanks for that question.
So I would like to comment, then I'm just gonna speak public from our personnel subcommittee, some of the comments that we had and if they've changed is concern with there was a $10,000 salary increase to the position, right? And this had just come after the budget when the person received the GWI right on July 1st. And so they'll get like a double bump here. And so one of the questions that came up was there an opportunity for a merit bonus, stipend, whatever you call it, to hold us till we get to the budget and the zero-based budgeting and the reclassification and relook at the library without committing to a $10,000 salary bump. That's still something that I don't know if anybody else has a problem with. I still have a problem with it. I don't have a problem presented as a succession plan to give this person more responsibility. It looks like if I look at salaries, I don't know if they're all are, this person is still ahead of the other two positions. I could be wrong, Eric, we didn't get everybody's salaries, but it seemed like this person was a bit higher than the other two positions, so might be in the range already for what this position would be. You could, there's just too many papers for me to look at for this. And that's just kind of the questions that I have. Those are my concerns, cause I look at the projected increases, and this person goes from, 100, not dismissing the capabilities, I'm sorry, it's hard to talk about people's salaries in public, but goes from 111 to 113 to 125 in 2 years.
If I can, Chair, just with
you wanna
respect
add something, Heather?
Well, let me, if I could just answer that one question about the stipend. As originally conceived, the position would have been non-union.
Yep.
If it was non-union, then we certainly could do stipends and so forth. Because as a part of the conversations coming out of Personnel Sub, we negotiated with CSEA for this position to stay in the union. We foreclosed the stipend. I can't do anything different for an individual that I couldn't do for the others in that bargaining group. So I would have preferred if the position was unclassified. In negotiations with the union, we came to a good solution, which is described in your memorandum. And I also wanted to just, if I could ask you to pass these out. This is just a snapshot for the board before you make this important decision that shows increases to the library budget going back 5-6 years now to 2020, FY 2020. And you've seen annual budget increases of 4%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 4%, and then last year, just 1%. We have to get a handle on this. The reason that one of the many reasons that we're recommending this position is to get more strength in management to help us sort through what is clearly budget creep at the library. And again, we're not making any aspersions about programming or the benefits or any of the fine work that's being done there. What we're saying is that we don't have the management resources to do that analysis. And why this is so important is we'll be starting work on the operating budget for next year in mid-October, looking to my deadline of getting this board the budget, the operating budget for the following year in early February. We've really strongly asking for your support. It's less than $10,000 in impact on the expense side. It could have a direct impact on significant savings to the library budget. That's why this is so important.
So we've had this discussion in personnel.
Yep.
Long term, it is way more than $10,000, and if you're looking at it to get a handle on the scope creep that's been going on here in the increases, budgetary increases each year, and we're looking at getting a handle on that between now and as we get into the next budget, that looks to me like kind of a short-term dive, not a whole new role over those months. So you know, I have questions around that of, okay, once we get a handle on the library's budget, kind of then what?
We're stuck with the $10,000.
Well,
And it's way beyond that,
Yeah.
actually, if you look over a
Yeah.
year's time. And if we're going to also be looking at the full org chart at the library and zero-based budgeting, why would we change one position when we don't know what all of the positions in the full org chart will look like until the budget?
So that's a great
So
point.
there's, I'm hearing three questions, I'll do my best with all of them. Again, well, go ahead, Sharon.
No, I guess the question that I'm feeling is, can we approve the position without the salary? And then you get to the person can take on the additional responsibilities. They seem to have a higher salary than the other people in those ranges. I mean, I don't know, I can't read this right on the fly, I'm sorry. Yeah,
So just to give some perspective on salaries.
Pardon me?
Some perspective on those salaries. Yes, the children's head does make more than the others simply by matter of years of service.
Okay.
So the person in that role has 8 years of service where one of the other department heads only has 2 and the other one, the third, only has 1 year underneath the supervisor's contract. The one who had come in with only 1 year of service makes north of 90,000 today. And the one who has 2 years of service is right around the same salary range as well, just south of 90,000. So that's the reason why you're seeing that discrepancy between the overall salaries. To the point about giving additional duties and responsibilities, in the unionized environment, it would be very difficult for us to be able to have a discussion with the union about giving these types of responsibilities without having an equitable adjustment not only to the rate, but to make sure that rate is reflected in their pension, which will be very important to both the union and to the individual as well.
So I guess another question I have is with this position, I think Stephanie does a great job, and I look at the children's service area of the library, it's one of the most vibrant, if not the most vibrant section of the library. So if she's now taking on these administrative type role, who's filling in where she is with it not creating a new position?
So back to my point about, the issue before the board is approving the job description. But with that in mind, I'll try my best to answer this, and that is that you are correct, Heather. We chose this person based on the years of service and in consultation with the library director. This is the incumbent that we want to take on the higher management role. Some of the duties of the incumbent have to be pushed down the organization in order to free her up to do higher level work. She's the right person for the job at the right time. But that isn't the discussion that we wanted to bring to the board, because we don't see that micromanagement of choices for promotions to be the issue in front of the board. The charter says that the town manager has to seek your approval for the job description. And we're into a conversation about salaries and things and the merit of our choice for who should be put into that position. But what we're asking the board to understand is that without this, what we get is the status quo. And the chart that I just handed out shows you clearly, you just look at the numbers. That is the status quo. And the one thing that management is asking for is to get a little bit more bench strength on the leadership side. And you yourself, your very question, Heather, indicates that you agree that incumbent is doing a great job in what she's doing. We don't hold people back because they're doing very good at what we've given them to do. We throw them forward and say, help us make this library more efficient. Not better, because we think we've got the best library in the region. But we do believe that we can make the library more efficient. And Eric and I went in front of the library board and we asked them to be our partner in that. And that means that next year's budget, if this is approved, is a collaboration between the library board, whose chair is here tonight and who supports this, and our finance team and our HR team. This board approved the creation of human resources to do exactly what we're trying to do here tonight. And we really need the help.
Not to, I keep beating this, but I look at it as if we move Stephanie into the deputy position, it just is opening up in time, that is actually a new position and that we need someone head of children's services.
I can assure you that that is not gonna happen. I'll go on the record and say, I don't want to, but I will because it's that important. It's not gonna happen. The same amount of work could be done with the other two incumbents. There is a plan behind this change. I'm asking the board to trust us that this is the pivotal piece that allows us to support the library director and also zero-based budgeting, take a deep dive and look for the efficiencies. I don't know what the efficiencies are, but I've gotta say that if we do this, we're gonna save more than $10,000 a year.
But how do you know, if you don't know that there's efficiencies, how do you know that we need to do this? Like-
Because this is not sustainable. We cannot.
Tied together though.
Yeah.
They're tied together because there's two ways to cut a library budget. You can do it without any strategy behind it at all as town manager or this board. You just go in and tell your library director, I want a 5% cut across the board. That would adversely impact programs and much of the fine work that the library's done. What we want is we don't wanna blindly cut. We wanna make strategic changes that make the library more efficient. Are there economies of scale with social services? Are there things that we can do with Parks and Rec that may impact the programming over at the library? We don't know. What we need is instead of having one leader with everybody below the director, we need that deputy position. And we have similar deputies in other departments. We have a deputy of finance. We essentially have a deputy at DPW. Where's Tom? I don't know, you don't call him the deputy, but other departments have deputies. You can't get a deputy at the library for $8,000 a year. We're not looking to hire a deputy. That we can't do that. It's a very innovative way, we think, to stretch just a little bit and get the maximum return on that money.
So my question on this chart is, you include social services on here.
Yep.
There's 2 points. First, can you explain the relevance of including social services on the library funding, but also if we talk about both on the fiscal years 23 and 25, both on the chart and the numbers above, we have to remember that in fiscal year 2023, when there was a huge spike, is when those ARPA funds hit and the position was hired using those ARPA funds. And then when those ARPA funds expired and we voted to eliminate that position, that is that dip in fiscal year 25.
Yeah, good point. So I think we have a good answer. We assumed that there could be, we don't know, because we don't have the management bench strength, quite frankly. But we assume that there may be some synergies between social services, some of the work that's going on there, and some of the fine work that's being done at the library. We wanted to show the budgets side by side, partly for that reason. We do understand that the ARPA money impacted the social worker in social services. But we wanted to point out that when you did bring that person in, it was a 20% spike in their budget. And when we eliminated the position, which I did in my first budget here as your town manager, the reduction to the budget was only 10%. So while we say we eliminated the position that was funded by ARPA, it's true, but the backside of that is that the budget didn't dip by 20% at social services. It only went down by half of what we spent. But we do wanna focus on the library budget, 23% increase over these years. And again, the lowest single increase was just in my last budget. I can't do more without this resource. It's really a spend to save. You're talking about asking somebody to take on more responsibility without compensating them?
This happens in
Sure.
corporate America all the time.
Yeah, but in corporate America, they're getting bonuses, they're getting stock dividends, you're getting a lot of other things, to serve in corporate America these days, so.
Can I ask a question
Yes.
here? This is a question for, so you know, you have this, that we're just approving the description,
Correct.
yet we are on the hook to approve the finances here.
The funding share is already in the budget, we don't need to make a more.
But we're committing to this funding ongoing
But
in the
you're-
years to come.
But you're committed to those escalations anyway.
I understand we do the GWIs that we commit to every year, but we're not committing to something where it's at a 6% increase for this. I don't know where that is, there's a lot of paperwork here. A 6% increase, it's on this one sheet, the cost analysis.
This board has the authority to lay off that individual or any other individual during budget season next year. That's not before the board tonight. With respect, what's before the board is merely approving a change to a job description that hasn't been updated in a number of, and we've got hundreds of those. Our HR department, is lining them up. And under our charter, they've all gotta go to personnel sub and they've all gotta go to this board. And we intend to bring them forward. Because we're operating this town with job descriptions that go back in some cases to 2012.
Okay, let me I need some facts just here. What is the salary currently for the person? 105,413. What is the project?
That's on this chart here.
Okay, so then they would go up to is their salary within the new range that they will go to, the A8 range? What is the minimum on the A8-10 range? Is it on this sheet?
Will their salary be within the A8?
Yeah, so they're moving from an A5 22.
They're going from 5 to.
So they would still be within the range of the new grade. And then in the next year, as we do the budget, they'd have the potential for an increase, right, based on whatever.
They'll have the opportunity for an additional, and I'm just gonna be a little careful, we are still in contract negotiations, everything we're talking about
Okay.
has not yet been settled. But the individual would have potentially another 2 years before they hit top step in the new grade.
What is the minimum of the AA grade? Do we have that?
The current year, the current range starts at 102.
Okay.
This one is.
Okay. So they would be.
This one.
Okay, so they're above the minimum for the to enter that grade. They're
I'm not sure I understand the question. If
I
you're-
guess my question
Their
is,
current salary is, it may be within the newly proposed range. But again, I've got to discount asking somebody to do the work without compensation, if that's the purpose of your question.
it is.
Okay, so
purpose of
that,
my
I would
question.
take that off the table, because as a member of the collective bargaining group, I'm not even comfortable discussing that. You can't ask employees to take on significantly more responsibility for not getting, without any compensation.
It's gotta be a seesaw. The money's gotta come from, so we can't just keep funding.
We have
So
been-
I'll make the motion as is if you want. I mean, that's what I'll ask for the motion, we can vote on it.
Okay, that's
Just to
fine.
give you, I think I understand your question, just one thing to consider is that on a promotion, contractually, this would be considered a promotion. An individual must receive a 6% increase as a result of that promotion. That would bring the individual up to you have to meet a minimum of 111,000. Based on the structure of what we anticipate, the individual would actually come in somewhere in the neighborhood of 113 as the nearest benchmark on the grade. No, they're not coming at the very initial step, they're coming in mid-grade. Closer to step 6 on what will probably be a reduced step scale at the end of this contract.
So you're basically saying that if we approve this job description, the promotion's automatic because of the union. That's what I just heard. Did I just hear that?
If it's a minimum 6%.
Yeah, so you're saying we can't
That's
approve
what
the
you're
position
saying.
without the salary.
The individual's due is probably gonna land somewhere in the neighborhood of 107,000 just by normal course of current role. Once this new contract goes into place, it'll be around 107,000. So you're talking a difference between 107,000 and 113,000.
But we also have to backfill her position, which is gonna cost us.
No, we're not backfilling, but
We're not gonna hire.
we're not backfilling, but we're
Again.
committing to that level of
Well-
increase going forward. It's a $10,000 increase going
Yeah, so
forward.
it's exponential.
Yes.
That is true, but
Okay.
We're committing though, with Chair, with respect, we're committing to the budget savings of some multiple of that. I mean, it's not fair to say this board is committing to the salary increase.
You don't know what you're
But we don't.
I do, we do know, or we wouldn't
We're
present.
putting all the budget on one person.
But this is the other thing. I don't understand between our finance directors, we have an executive director at the library, and we must have data that's already there that we can look at to find savings. I don't understand why it needs to be tied with, if we don't make this position for $10,000, then the library budget can't get under control. That, I don't understand that.
So the answer is
link
that it is, Heather, with respect, it's not just looking at the numbers and making cuts based on what budget line is underspent. We need command and control over the efficient operations on a day-to-day basis. This is about operations. It's not just about budget. It's about directing subordinates to do this or to do that, or to not do this or not do that. And that is, we do not have a deputy director. We have a director, and we have 3 people that are essentially running different silos, segments of that library. And I am trying to unflatten the organization. It's about day-to-day operations. It's not just about budget cuts. We can't begin to identify, to Curtis's question, exactly where the savings is. There's a little bit of a leap of faith that we're asking the board to give us something that we need in order to go do the job. And that is a very minimal increase and a position exchange for this. We're not asking to add a new position. But again, with respect, it's not just going through the numbers and saying we're gonna cut a day program here. If we wanna do that, we could close the library 1 day a week and save, $50,000 there. We don't know where the savings is until we get in there under the hood. And what we've seen and what we've shown the board is what happens if we keep doing what we're doing, we're gonna have the same result. And under the alternate proposal is that we don't do this and we just cut.
Okay, I'm
I would think that at
gonna
least we'd have the
read the
director
motion. I'm
come
gonna,
up with a plan.
She's
of
at the
how we're gonna
DEI,
save.
she's at the DEI meeting, Selectmen. She's at the DEI meeting as well, which one of our members of the public said, was scheduled for the same night, and that's being held at the library, so.
I'm gonna ask for a motion effective September 8th, 2025 to approve amendment to the job description currently titled Head of Children's Services, retitling the classification to Deputy Director and Head of Children's Services, and further upgrading the job duties and responsibilities as recommended by the Human Resources Director and Library Director. Anybody gonna move that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'd like to move that we table the item to a future meeting. I think that there's been a lot of discussion tonight that that unfortunately the board hasn't been fully convinced. And I think that it would be much easier, even if this were a tightly one vote, it'd be much easier if there was a much more strong and unanimous support from this board and get us closer to the budget season. So I'll make a motion to table this for a future meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor to table this, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to tabling it? Okay, tabled.
Procedurally, a table comes up with a.
Yeah, we
So
needed a new
I
motion.
seconded
right?
and then I made a motion to table it.
Okay, I think you got it right. I'm not gonna question. Okay, can we take a 5-minute recess?
No.
Okay, then don't. We alright, forget it. Keep going. I wanted more water. Oh, so
You want one? Go ahead.
we're not having a recess, right?
If that's all right with the chair.
It's okay if somebody will get me water.
Thanks, Eric.
We all need water.
I got it. Then you'll come back refreshed for more discussion.
I know, okay, so there's no recess because Kevin doesn't need to get up and get water. I'm just joking. So now we're on item F, correct?
Yes.
Wait,
Which is
where's-
former E.
Oh, we already moved this. Well, we're not doing that.
Former F.
It was.
It
So
was
this is the
that.
donation. So my question is,
Yes.
work in fundraising, get anonymous donations all the time. We're a public entity, Bob's not here. Have we ever accepted a donation that was specifically anonymous in the past. As a public entity, I don't know that we were actually able to, but we have.
Yeah, we have it for the food pantry as well.
Okay. And that was the only reason for me discussing it. I'm
Held
going
us
to
up, no,
call
I'm
the
kidding, I'm
question.
kidding.
Yep, sorry.
Okay, ask for a motion effective September 8th, 2025 to accept a donation from an anonymous Simsbury resident, thank you, in the amount of $2,000 for the purpose of supporting the Simsbury Community and Social Services Department's food pantry.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thanks, Lori.
Oh, Lori, thank you.
I can hand them out in less than 3 minutes.
This donation was not anonymous.
This was
Thank you.
anonymous.
Let the record
Yeah,
reflect.
I'm
Lori
good, no,
Boyko
I'm
just
good.
delivered
And she gave
water.
them to
Thank you, Lori.
everyone equally and fairly. Look at, she likes us.
That's right, that's actually true, I can attest to that.
Closer to the mic. Okay, this one is a good one. Where's is this just you, Adam, or Tom? Oh, here he comes.
He's got smaller waters.
I did, this
Just you or just
Jeez, Tom, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna let Tom, you guys wanna do a little,
Song and dance?
yeah.
I was gonna let Adam lead, I was gonna follow, but.
Okay, Adam,
Here we go.
I'm gonna move up now that we're the only ones left.
oh yeah, sit in the front row, cause you'll be almost on the board.
We're gonna have the Tom and Adam show for a while.
Just a couple items. So this is for our metalwood barns, also known as sheds. Good reference. So this started with the metalwood acquisition as part of, I think it was FY 22 or so. FY 23, we received and appropriated grant funds for the design of restoration to the sheds that were on the property. There's various ones that are standing there, some have been demolished, some have fallen down. Since then, we have 2 remaining that are in this area. So the design proceeded with the intention of eventually opening up the interior of those sheds as part of the historical exhibit. So there's 2 processes operating kind of in a parallel path almost, where SHPO and TPL, we're gonna work on a historic exhibit for the site. That would include some kind of entering those sheds at a time and presenting that space. Meanwhile, we were working on creating the design to restore the sheds and make them basically accessible to the public. It was pretty clear, just based on deterioration that's occurred for the last 20 or 30 years of those sheds, that we wouldn't necessarily be able to make those sheds accessible, to a sense of whenever we do a public project, when we talk about accessibility, we're talking about hard surfaces and accessible to all persons. So our design kind of went as far as we could with what we were working with. And we went out to bid, and the bids came back, well, the one sole bidder came back with for a total of $2.3 million to restore both sheds. There was an alternate in there that included demolishing one shed and restoring the one that was in essentially the best condition. And that was still over $1 million. The funding that was appropriated FY 24 or FY 23 for construction totaled $650. So we had quite a shortfall there. We made it very clear to SHPO and TPL at that time that the town wasn't going to make up the difference without a lot of further discussion. The extra funds would kind of need to come from SHPO and TPL, donations, grants, what have you. So over the last year, because that bid went out, I think in 2024, we've talked with some prospective bidders that decided not to bid to kind of find out why they didn't bid. We never really like to proceed with just one bid. And it seemed that there was really a high cost or a high risk to restoring those sheds in the way it was designed for the intention of access. So with a consultation to SHPO and TPL, we went at this in 2 different ways. SHPO and TPL, go find some extra money.
And the town will try to find a, what we love to call value engineering way of approaching these sheds, and try to maybe meet in the middle some way, somehow. So that's kind of where we're at this point. SHPO and TPL have agreed that about $305,000 that were previously allocated for the historical exhibit could be redirected to just the restoration of the shed. The idea being, well, if the sheds aren't standing, then they don't really have a historic kind of presentation of that space. They'll find additional funds. They're kind of committed to finding additional funds for that historical exhibit if needed. So the additional $305,000 that they said exists to us would of course need a supplemental appropriation, and we would need something more formal from them for those funds. That would put, I think, total amount up to $955,000. With the value engineering, we believe we could restore one barn to a lesser risk category, which essentially is saying this is an agricultural shed, there's no public access. The design includes new foundations and columns on the interior that would take up the space of any public access. But it could be done cheaper than the previous design. Of course, with any major revision to plans, we would need additional funds, $45,000 essentially to revise those drawings accordingly. At this time, I've not heard back from SHPO or TPL on whether, their additional funds could possibly go towards that design effort. Does it have to be paid by the town? It's just a question that's out there we're sort of waiting on. But that's basically the summary of the last couple of years with our sheds. I know we call them the barns, but quite honestly, like tobacco barns are essentially fast construction to create sheds to dry tobacco. They're made where they're essentially disposable buildings, so if it falls down, it's easy to put back up. This isn't a horse barn that's there to last 100 years. I think we're just lucky that they've lasted this long, to be honest, based on what's deteriorated and how it's been deteriorating. The shame is it's really the roof that's caused all the deterioration as water gets in there. And I don't know if there's a lot of roofing people that want to get up on top of that shed without some additional work.
That's actually the problem. They can't even put the new roof on the way you would traditionally put a roof on, where you would put guys up on the roof with safety harnesses, they'd pull off plywood, put on new plywood. They would be working off a man lift the entire time because you cannot put the load of a person on the roofs. They're that deteriorated. They have holes in them that have allowed 25 years of rain to get down in and rot out the supporting columns. And it's also kind of Adam's point, it's not an Amish barn that's post and beam. It's small timbers that are very susceptible to these years of water.
Can I make a couple, I asked some questions. So first of all, Heather and I took a trip out there back when we had tours of the barn with our last board. So we saw the signatures and stuff like that. And we saw the condition of those barns then. I was 23, I guess. I did wanna ask this question because I pulled the capital CIP sheets from the 24 budget. Cause I was just trying to see what we voted on back then because I was trying to rectify these numbers. And it looked like we did do, I sent this in an email to you guys. But it looked like we had a capital reserve of 57,500, so is that sitting somewhere?
Yeah, so we haven't spent any of the money.
Okay, so it's just, okay, so we haven't spent any money, and then so basically what you're saying is whatever else is listed here is way over now. It's way more than was projected here.
Right.
The other question that has happened since all this is we're applying for that National Historic District, which opens us up to money potentially. So if we don't have money to invest, SHPO and potentially the National Preservation Office, if they so choose, could help fund preserving these barns if they wanted to, correct?
I hope so. We'll get something for that, right?
And another question I have is, humor me if you want, at one point, you guys talked about saving the interior boards in the barn with the signatures. You couldn't save the whole barn and doing some sort of thing with that. What happened to that idea? Is that still at a float?
That's still a concept, and it kind of comes down to what Adam was saying with, you know, what kind of display are we gonna put? I would say if we found out we're at the point that we're not gonna be able to save the barns, that would be an option where, you know, you would put in temporary supports inside that would allow you to pull away the sheathing, the outside wood that has all of the signatures on it. But the barns are to a point that when our structural engineer was out looking at them and he did drone flights to do some measurements and things, during the course of the project, they moved essentially in the wind. And I think we're, you know, at a point where we're looking, I think, for some guidance. Do we keep going down this path? Which it would be at this point another, call it 45,000 for engineering services. We're gonna get a bid back, and if it's at that 950,000, we can afford it. But if the bid comes back at 1.2 or 1.3, I just, you know, I think today is a good point to discuss where's the appetite. I know there are some people that are deeply passionate about these barns and Simsbury history, and I understand that. But I also know it's tough budget times, and we're looking for some you know, guidance.
So I have another question. So is it possible, I mean, we don't need to make a decision here tonight. Is it possible to get, and we're talking about these displays and exhibits from the historical exhibits, what are they and what would they look like? Is there anything that we can see that shows all this planned stuff by SHPO with the barns, without the barns, if it still represents the historic nature of that area? So we have something, and you talked about other funds that's not listed here, with a breakdown of the actual funding and a schedule of some sort to look at more concrete data.
So part of that $305,000 that they've identified, you know, to be added to the $650 that was appropriated a couple years ago.
Oh, so the 305 is adding to, that makes the
Right, so that makes
955?
it the
Okay, thank you.
Those, some of that money would go to the design. So they have not you know, done an RFP or anything of that sort to get a consultant on board to do the design for a exhibit, or you know, it might just be a parking area with a couple kiosks or something of that sort. They haven't started that process because they're waiting for the barns to be, you know, essentially restored.
Okay.
And I mean, there was an honest question there of how many barns would be standing when they start the design, and where would that parking go? You know, so that's one of those situations where we don't really have any answers for that in particular. We do have a schedule of you know, the allocation of funds, where I believe the original CIP project outlined about a $450,000 grant. There's about $115,000 from the town. That was from two different sources. And then the remainder was $85,000. That was a donation to TPL when Amazon demolished a bunch of sheds in Windsor. And that was the makeup of that $650.
Okay, so is the, I just questioned, because nobody else has this in front of me, but it's the capital request form from our budget books. It had capital reserve 57.5, it said to be paid back, I don't know what that means. And then it also had the 57.5 agricultural lease payments in the sheet. That would be the 115, I don't know what it means to be paid back, but you're saying we approved in that budget $115,000 cash money to go towards the barns.
And that was the match.
Right.
That was the match, okay.
A grant match?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
why that's sitting there.
and now it's like the partnership between the town and TPL. You know, TPL had 85, we could bring 115 to the table to match the 450 grant.
So I'm not saying we wanna do this, but I'm not saying, I'm gonna just say, if I were to say this, I don't really know personally right now what I wanna do with this, and I don't know where others are, other than I don't think, we wanna spend a lot of money on those barns before we see if we're gonna get grants to cover the cost.
I think it would be really hard to allocate new funding towards anything at this point.
Yeah, have we exhausted our grant opportunities? I know one time there was a discussion on the National Park Service one that we talked about for the bridge, and it was thought that it could be a potential for a barn, the barn restoration. I just am curious if all of our grant opportunities have been exhausted.
There's none that are currently out there that I'm aware of. There could be something I'm not. I have not, other than, it's been a couple years since I looked at the national park grant process. I mean, it's something we can certainly take a look at. The other question is, is there potential for donations for something like this? The only challenge is if we don't in the next 30-60 days make the decision to move forward with the design process, we're gonna not be in a position to be in construction in the spring and summer. And every year
They may not be there, is what you're saying,
That's
so.
exactly
Could you're running, like, by the time they want construction in the spring, one of them could be gone anyway, potentially.
And it's a tough situation to know that they're in that level of precarious condition.
When will you find out if SHPO or TPL will contribute to the $45,000 design work?
We can make that request, but I think maybe the only thing would be is if they use a portion of the
305, yeah. We
305.
asked that as recently as last week, so the hope is that we get some answers.
Also, to tap onto that national, part of that National Historic Preservation, they're doing this study on Morehouse College. That was incorporated there. This is history for Morehouse College, so could we try this? We haven't gone through that full process, but can we try to find out if they're willing to cough up that money? I guess those are just ideas.
I'm just kind of spitting.
I don't really have an answer, I just.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I do think that that's gonna be a challenging environment, right, considering the demographics of this town and the mission of Morehouse College to send money here to the
Well, it's a history.
I just wanna be, but I do think that the path about private philanthropy that Tom is on that, I think that that's probably the most appropriate place considering the circumstances that I've presented here. I feel woefully unprepared to make a value judgment on this and considering the costs and the other reality that you get the design services and like they said, one microcell or microburst or whatever it is, solves this problem for us in a way that we wouldn't have wanted. So I feel uncomfortable to take any action. I guess if they were asking for my guidance and my guidance alone is that we're not ready yet to execute any additional design services at this time.
And that was even the way it's framed today, so this was just to bring this issue that has been in the background for a long time back up and be something that we'd be looking for some guidance as we go forward, probably next month.
Okay.
I still have 2 questions. Would it be more economical to just replace them? I know there's some great boards on the inside, but honestly, I believe most of the residents appreciate them for the aesthetic beauty of the barns in the field. And a lot of times it's actually cheaper to replace than renovate. Could this be one of those scenarios?
Off the top of my head, I would say it would be probably cheaper to build something that looks like that barn in shape and size than it would be to try to
renovate.
Isn't that what happened at Simsbury Solar on Hoskins there? Did they just build that new or what happened there?
I was wondering if Pennington bid.
Yeah, they ended up just rebuilding it.
No, but I mean, Penwood Builders, which is Jim Pennington, a local kid, is the one that built that.
Right.
I don't know if he did. So my other thing is, I don't know if you guys know, but we've got the 6+1 barns way out back on this lot. They are still functioning. They dry tobacco in them
they keep
every
going up.
year. I mean, if you want an exhibition, do it in the barn that's still got tobacco in it, not the one that's got sawdust and rotted timbers. So I mean, I'm not sure if we're acknowledging that exists, cause I don't think a lot of people really know those barns are there. And as if I'm not mistaken, Tom
High
asked.
schoolers know they're there.
I was gonna say,
Steve,
unless you live by us and you have to follow the tractor
6
with
plus
all
1.
the tobacco leaves hanging from it right now.
Per their agricultural lease, aren't they required to maintain the roofs of the structure? Boom! I just gave someone else the bill. That's, we'll just give tours on a tractor, go through and be like, look at the barn, and you're done. I can do this for 10 grand.
We're creating corn maze in the fields down by us.
No, but on a serious note,
Charge people.
we're not limited to just these 2 barns. We have 7 functional barns that are being maintained. And it might be worth just building a facade that everyone wants in the middle of the field, instead of making believe that if we want a working exhibit, we should use something that we are going to recreate when we already literally own 7 of them 500 feet away. Well, more than 500, 1,000 feet away.
I don't know the history of the 6+1 versus, were they of the same era?
No, they might have been a few years, but they're old as shit. And they're, excuse me, professional
They
term.
beat that out on
So-
Simsbury TV.
Yeah, and I think the point would be to recover the signatures before something happens, and then either, like to Steve's point, potentially look at either rebuilding in the style or refunctioning in another way.
If you want to see authentic, you go there. There's still the Culbro picking bins are littered all over the place. I mean, it's
I was a
it's
tobacco
authentic.
picker myself, so.
I'm gonna interrupt here and say,
Yep.
let's
David.
move on, but great discussion.
Good discussion. Thanks, guys.
Thank you both.
Thank you guys for staying still, okay.
They got one more.
There's no expectation or requirement
Yeah, I'm on the-
under
oh,
the
the next one, yeah,
acquisition
I forgot.
to do anything there, is that right? So there's no
Yeah, right now.
expectation or requirement that we have that we took on an obligation.
I believe there is a level of expectation.
That's a good point.
I think there certainly was. I don't know if it's formally written.
So
Well,
and
then it doesn't exist.
well, then in that grant that we received, if it was restoration, like, does that mean that we are tied to having to restore them rather than rebuild them?
We'll get the answers from the team.
That's what
Yeah.
I need, yeah, thank you.
You guys are on it. Okay, now we'll do your next one, cause I was gonna, the fund transfer for, parking lot improvement and the entryways. Is that right? The parking and the entryways, doing a flip. Are you gonna talk about that, Adam?
Sure, why not?
Okay, while you're up
Here
there.
already, right? Yeah, so Hall entrance project is starting to wrap up. We're gonna be completed in, I wanna say by September 26th. That contractor will be all set. So we had an additional appropriation this past fiscal year for that project because we went out to bid once and bids were well above the funding allocated for it. And that again didn't attract many bidders because of the historic nature and just the risk of doing work next to an old building of that nature. So we had enough money to do the south side, which is what they're completing now. The north side would be about another $300,000 or $350,000 on top of the remaining funds, which is about $260,000. So each side essentially is a $500,000 project at this point. Because of the brickwork and some underpinning that has to happen at the building and all that good stuff. So what we're asking here is to essentially transfer the remaining $245 that's in the entrance project to our parking lot project. We're asking for about $110,000 of the $245 to be transferred to the parking lot. We see those two projects as pretty intertwined. Essentially with our parking lot, we're going to do a bunch of regrading in there and relocate the handicap spots to the south side entrance. That allows us to meet all our ADA requirements for parking and puts them at the nice new wide entrance into the building. The north side is currently accessible and will remain accessible. We also have some new sidewalk that'll be along the parking lot there. We're removing one entrance to the parking lot from Railroad Street, the steep one that everyone scrapes the bottom of their car on, right next to the dumpster. That goes away and we'll install some stairs. And that's what this additional funding would go towards, is the stairs from Railroad Street up to the parking lot in Eno, some additional parking on Railroad Street with a small retaining wall. So that adds to the street parking that'll be available down there. And we feel that, part of the other reason of of requesting it now is we have a contractor in place that's ready to get started right when Richards, who's a contractor now at the entrance project, leaves. So they'll come in the week following and we'll get this parking lot underway in October. We received 6 bids for the parking lot job, ranging from $320,000 to $460,000. So I mentioned that just to throw out how the bidding environment right now is a lot of fun for us, where the range is huge. But we were happy to get 6 bidders. We feel the bid that we have at just over 300 is a very good bid. And it's well worth the money, I think, to get this project completed. And the nice thing is I think we'll have the parking lot all wrapped up and reopened by November if we stick with this schedule. So I think we got lucky on this one.
I support this. You mentioned the stairs and that driveway path, so you're gonna remove the drivable path that's there, and so that'll be cut off. And the spot that goes to Fiddler's Green right there, that's shared obviously too. Is there any circumstance where Fiddler's Green would intend to cut that off? I'm just thinking about the primary point in and out from that parking lot, and if they would ever shut that off, that's the only other exit there.
We actually have, and it was executed by the Board of Selectmen a number of years ago, and maybe it's something that we should revisit at some point. But we have a shared parking agreement with Fiddler's Green where it essentially says during the morning hours, can use that as overflow parking. When the senior center is not open, Fiddlers can use the parking lot as overflow, and we share that dumpster.
Great, perfect. I'm still new here.
It was an old one.
Alright, thank you.
And I'm in favor of it. The only question I have, and I know it's gonna go to the Board of Finance, so they'll figure it out, is that how it was originally funded, because some of it was with bonds and things like that, and if you can move that money around. But I think I'll let them make those decisions, right, Mark?
We checked with Amy and it can be, so there's no change required here.
Okay.
Chair Hefner asked us to set up a meeting with Bob D and we're doing that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna.
So it's a zero impact fiscally, it's just a transfer of funds.
Right.
So ask for a motion effective September 8th, 2025 to authorize a transfer of funds and approve a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $110,000 to the Eno Memorial Hall Parking Lot Improvements Project from the Eno Memorial Hall Entrance Improvements Project, and further move to recommend that transfer to the Board of Finance.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you, sir. Good job.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, this one I'm gonna turn over to Mark, cause it's to kind of explain why it's needed and any background on that, because it's a little bit out of my realm to
Which one are you on?
to execute the master municipal agreement for the right of way
right-of-way.
projects.
And how come I don't get any nice notes like this, like you wrote to Franklin on this memo?
I'll let Tom give you the brief version on this.
I'm not looking at that.
It's quite a lengthy document, as Wendy alluded to, I'll bet. Tom?
Yeah, long and
tell us.
short, this is one of these things that we should have kept in place. We shouldn't have let it expire. It's a standard agreement.
For over 40 years, SCM has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education, and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions, and it's no secret, people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SCM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth, and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
your schools,
and your government come together.